With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's been a couple of weeks, but we're finally back with more Precision Racing League action. The first series to kick off, or the first two series to kick off, rather. It's time for the GT3 Fix Series and the GT3 Sprint Series to return to action, back and better than ever, with 50-plus cars expected on the grids for both series tonight. In the GT3 Fix Series, we've got our returning dominant champion Michael Terrafino returning to defend his crown, and about a 50-50 split between some familiar names and some new faces. And coming up in the GT3 Sprint Series, of course, there'll still be a Pro-Am split there, but in the pros, our two top drivers in Sean Campbell and Vincent Trepanier will not be here, and the winningest GT3 driver in PRL history, Karl Modoff, will return to attempt to fill that vacuum. Willkommen in Österreich, and welcome to round one of the GT3 Fixed and the GT3 Sprint Series in the Precision Racing League, live from the virtual Red Bull Ring. My name is Joey Tevin. I'm here alongside Justin Prince, who is in that direction. By the way, Justin, we come to the GT3s in a perfect time where there's been a huge overhaul in the previous update just a few days ago. These GT3 cars are very, very different.
Very different in how they handle, very different in terms of how they rotate. In some cases, drivers said they felt much more tighter. For others, when it comes more to the open side, they've talked about trying to open up the rake to try and get a little bit differences on the downforce. For other drivers, they feel the speeds are even quicker in some circumstances. Tonight should be fun, though, to start things off for the fixed race to see which drivers are able to adapt with this brand new update.
And of course, with updates, the cars tend to change. We were seeing a lot of Porsches and a lot of Audis last season. We see some more Lamborghinis at the top. We see even more Audis. We see some Ferraris being competitive. So there is all sorts of opportunity for differences in competitiveness this season. Let's take a look at the schedule here coming up. A lot of your familiar GT3 tracks. We kick it off at the Red Bull Ring 1 week early here because there will be a break in a couple of months' time for Valentine's Day. So we're starting 1 week early here in the GT3s just to even everything out with the additional holiday break as well. But we kick it off with 5 F1 tracks in a row: Red Bull Ring, Monza, Spa, Silverstone, Hungaroring. Then we travel to the Daytona Road Course. At the same time, the real-life Daytona 24-hour will be happening, and the iRacing Daytona 24-hour for that matter. Then the newest track on iRacing, the Circuit de Nevers Manicourt. I hope all of you French people are happy. I tried my best. Then Interlagos, then Road America, which is always good in these GT3 cars. And we finish it off on the tight and twisty quarters of Okayama. So a very, very interesting schedule coming up here for the GT3 Fixed and GT3 Sprint Series. Justin, I don't know what I'm looking forward to the most. I guess it's got to be the new track in Manicourt.
I was about to say that as well because it's a brand new racetrack, has a good mixture of high speed and low speed sections around that racetrack. It'll definitely challenge a lot of competitors. I'm very curious about the Daytona race as well, because as we both know, the special event going to be a big part of some people's preparation. Maybe some crossover in turn from some of those drivers in their preparation for that event, coming in for that round 6 as well.
Of course, we have no championship standings to show you because this is indeed race 1 of the season, so we're going to get straight into qualifying. But before we can do that, of course, we must thank all the people who continue to make every single PRL broadcast possible here on RaceSpot. Of course, first and foremost, the VCO, the virtual competition organization, helping us out here at RaceSpotTV and helping make every single Precision Racing League broadcast possible this season. Coverage is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Then we go to Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount code, also using the Precision5 coupon code. And from Racebox to RaceLab. RaceLab apps helps you improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Oh my goodness, what's this? It's a new name. It's Mecha Sim Hardware here in the PRL for the first season, helping us out. Excuse me. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifters, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Getting choked up at the new sponsor. And last but not least, our coverage is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, it's finally time to start tracking some qualifying performance, and luckily, we do have quite a bit of qualifying to show you. We can take you through some of the new names this season. Michael Pabiano in that Lamborghini on your screen right now. Top practice. Not necessarily a new name in the PRL, but he hasn't been here for the past couple seasons. He's back, and he immediately puts it to the top of the board.
It was the quickest in practice by 0.4 of a second, so I think there's a strong chance that 101 machine might be one of the drivers to beat, to say the very least. Noticing, though, among some of the other drivers, even those who have set times, a lot of them are struggling on rotation, and Nicky Lauda is what was some of the high-speed corners with that rotation we talked about with those adjustments to the car.
Yeah, I did send a message to one of our GT3 sprint drivers coming up later tonight, Ted Lowendick, just asking him, from a driver's perspective, what's going on with these cars? How's it different? He just sent me one word in all caps: understeer. I think that's pretty understandable, Justin.
Absolutely. That's been a major discussion point for a lot of these drivers, that handling very different compared to what it felt like before in a lot of the words of those respective drivers, which means it's going to be more difficult and turn more tighter on the corner in terms of the understeer. If you have said understeer, going to be a real adjustment period if you haven't already practiced yet, to make sure you understand how this car's going to be feeling. You understand how this car's going to rotate. And oh, by the way, there's a new damage model to deal with too.
Even better. Hopefully we don't have to show off the new damage model too much tonight, but it is the first race of the season. We saw even a couple days ago with VCO Pro Sim Infinity, the top drivers in these cars in all of iRacing, they still managed to run into each other at turn 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. So there's always the possibility for calamity, especially when it is the first round of the season. There's a little bit of those jitters all the time. Rob Campbell crossed the line, puts it up in P4. Moving down to the GT3 Fixed Series, or I guess I should say moving across to the GT3 Fixed Series this season after having a pretty solid season in the AM class in the GT3 Sprint Series last season. He's off to a pretty decent start right now in P4, but he is looking forward because Dale Peterson is ahead of him. He's guaranteed to win the Inter-D Peterson battle this season. Dave Peterson not signed up for the GT3 Fixed Series this season, unfortunately. Angelo Veloz is currently P2, and Michael Pabiano just really showing up the field only by about 100th of a second, though. That's definitely a beatable time.
It is a beatable time, but he did pick it up a little bit. It is a little bit close now after those previous laps up to the 129.9s. Tempo picking up for some of the drivers compared to practice. Remember, 4 sole qualifying laps these drivers have around the racetrack to be able to try and bump up their times. And from what we've seen so far on that pylon, already a near 3-second difference top to bottom of the field. Just see with the flow coming to the final corners here at the Red Bull Ring as well, just how much speed you have to carry, but also how precise that respective line has to have to be able to get good rotation. Another temp picked up, but not enough to jump Dale Peterson, Joey.
Not enough to jump Dale Peterson. Rodrigo Morales puts it P6 on the board. Matias Arangua having a pretty solid qualifying as well in P5. Remember, he started on pole in the previous season opener last season at Road America, so he's certainly got some pace in that car. Michael Papiano has extended his gap onto pole. Dino Vella, for however good that lap might be in that Forge Racing Audi, it's not going to count. That was quite the off track. He's going to bring it to the line, and I think he knows that this lap is not going to count. He's lost all hope there, but I do want to say it is very good to see Forge Racing here in this series. We know they've done tons of competition in other leagues, in the majors, in the VMAX IndyCar series, for example, back when that was a thing, but Forge Racing joins the GT3 fixed ranks here in the PRL. I think they're in the GT3 Sprint Series as well. And you see a lot of familiar names. Dino Vella, Rob DeLoach, Greg McEnany. Always good to see some new teams joining the fray.
Yeah, absolutely, to see some new teams, some new competitors try and join the grid. Lots of excitement. Did have at least one driver say, though, who convinced some of his fellow teammates to join the series, Mark Stevenson. He's been dealing with a power outage and felt really bad that he couldn't make the opener after convincing his teammates to run this race in the series.
Michael Terrafino, by the way, has gone to pole. He spoiled Michael Pabiano's party up at the top of the timesheets, but qualifying is not over. Still 2 minutes to go. Let's see if Rob Campbell can hop up a couple of spots here from a 130.2. What's he going to do? It's another 130.2, so no improvement for Rob Campbell. That's the most frustrating thing as a driver. When you cross the line and you do exactly the same lap time, it's like, yeah, that was a good lap time again, but not good enough. Baron Glover crosses the line. He does improve quite a bit by 0.3 of a second. He's going to jump up all the way to P5. He's actually going to dump Rob Campbell off of that P5 spot. Jason Lottridge, another new name here this season, down in 21st. He's going to cross the line, find a little bit of time, only about 0.5 of a second, though. That should bring him into the top 20, but not much more than that.
Still a few more drivers having a shot to be able to bump up their times. Keep an eye on Steven Martinez. He spun out to start off the qualifying session, starting on the back foot, but did have solid pace in practice. And Vulture Motorsports machine handling these corners well, though, to be able to bump up and recover from the mistakes earlier on in this session.
A little bit wide through the second to last corner. I'm not sure if that'll be an off track for him. He will know at this point, though, but he's going to bring it to the line. Can he improve on a 130.2? He needs about 0.7 of a second to go to pole. Unfortunately, he only finds about 0.07 of a second. Again, though, that will be enough to jump Rob Campbell, and that'll put Steven Martinez onto the outside of row number 3. Jod Khalif, a returning name from last season here in the fixed series. He does have a lap on the board, but I don't think that's a representative lap. From what I remember of Jod Khalif's pace last season, I don't think he's a 45th place driver necessarily, so we'll see if he can improve on a 132.2 here through the final corner. It's tracking decently well, but I don't know if it's actually tracking that well. He's going to bring it to the line. He's already into the 130s, into the 132s. No, he's not able to improve. He's a second slower. Colin McKenzie right in the dying section. Can't say any words. Colin McKenzie's wrecking it into the wall. The dying seconds of the session, doesn't really matter what Colin McKenzie's lap time was going to be, because I think he knew he wasn't going to improve either. He dumps it into the wall. And one more driver coming around. I don't think Felix Feliz will bring it to the line, but his name's fun to say, so let's give him a shout out anyway.
Feliz tried to get there, but does come up short in turn. 47 drivers taking times. Colin McKenzie, the biggest of those who didn't. He was in the top 10 in final practice.
He will have some racing to do, but Michael Terrafino, he was on pole 6 times last season, and he's kicked off a new season with yet another pole. He'll start alongside Michael Pabiano, who should put up quite the effort. It's a battle of the Michael O's up on the front row. Dale Peterson, great qualifying for him in P3 to kick off the season in his Ferrari, alongside a fellow Ferrari of Angelo Veloz. Baron Glover starts P5, alongside Steven Martinez in P6. Rob Campbell in the Lamborghini starts P7 alongside Andre Bonatti. Matias Arangua couldn't quite recreate his season opening pole from last season, but he'll still start from the top 10 alongside Rodrigo Morales. Dino Vella leads the Forge Racing camp in 11th, and he starts alongside another new name, Jay Steffi. Eric Kalaga, lucky or unlucky P13th. He starts alongside Rob DeLoach, Alex Wright, and Matt Scherf, who will have a ton of support in the chat, 15th and 16th. Maurice Gaumillon for Forge Racing will start 17th, and Jeff Costello, returning once again from last season, will be back. Sully Saad almost won a race at Coda last season. He starts 19th alongside Errol Urexoy. Gary Weaver's been having some VR issues, but he is on the grid indeed. And Ryan Chandler wins the Chandler family battle in qualifying so far this week, ahead of Jason Lottridge and Drew DeWeese. But the hits keep on coming. We're not even halfway through. Andrew Venaro moving from the MX-5s. Selden Hamilton, a new name for SGE Esports. Patrick Cowgill for SRT Esports. And Brian Hoskins will start 28th. Mark File 29th. Greg Doucette, a little bit lower than he's used to in P30. Regan Chandler, a few spots behind his brother alongside Barry Cochran. Jeff Fleischman has some work to do, and Waldo Walden, moving over from the NASCAR side, is doing some GT3 this season. Always love to see that. Aiden Irvin, a new name, will start alongside one of the Britannia drivers in Phil Amaro. 37th place was Michael Kalaga. Lucio Vargas, not in an F3 car this season, in a GT3 car. He starts ahead of Ryan Luna, who's swapped into the Lamborghini, Frank Johnson in the Ferrari, and then two Team Beef Porsches, way lower than we'd expect them to be, with Roy Brown and Glenn Vanko. 43rd place went to good old Greg McInady for Forge Racing. He starts alongside Michel Plord, Jod Khalif, Liam Park, and Felix Feliz were the last drivers to get qualifying laps in. Colin McKenzie has quite a bit of work to do from 48th. Chris Tito for Forge Racing will start 49th, and then Jordan Walker and Jonathan Diggs will round out a 51-car field here tonight, Justin. I'm going to lose my voice. I'm just going to be reading grids all night.
Yeah, this could be very chaotic here off this launch. The first start of the season, fair bit of drivers looking to start off right. But as we've seen in plenty of moments here, that run to Niki Lauda can be very chaotic. The run through turn 3 can be very chaotic off the launch. You want to start off well? Survive the next couple corners.
It may still be 2022 in the real world, but in the PRL world, it is 2023 already, and we're ready to kick off the 2023 season. Michael Terrafino's trying to defend his championship. He's got a great start already, and we're going GT3 racing for the first time at the Red Bull Ring.
Nice solid start there. Peterson already going single file. And there go the stack ups. Already Benetti hit the back of Ron Campbell as they go 2-3 wide.
The 36 of Rob DeLoach, actually that's Dino Vella rather, off the road into turn 1. Manages to recover though. Little bit of an Audi train though. The Lamborghini, that's Jeff Costello in the number 87, trying to make his way forward with a little bit of momentum. Under braking into turn 3 for the first time. This is always a pinch point. We always see a little bit of trouble here. Looks like everybody will be able to navigate it through on lap 1 with a little bit of contact on the exit though.
Yeah, just some bumping and banging. Jeff Fleischman gunning turn around to the backdrop. All ready for the lead.
Michael Pabiano pouncing early. Just a little bit of a bobble for Michael Terrafino. I don't think he was necessarily expecting that dive, but Pabiano has caught Terrafino napping, and at least in the short term, advantage Michael Pabiano. He's passed the champion, and he's taken the lead on lap 1.
Pabiano looked very strong in race trim. Keep in mind, throughout the practice session, really good on the rotation. Seems to be really quick on the exits compared to the beef car.
Looks like the only real trouble on lap 1 was Jod Khalif at the back of the field. He's about 7 seconds off the pack. We'll see what happened to him if we can, but up front it is just single file. And there's the trouble. I shouldn't have said anything. Michel Plord has been turned around. I think that's Walker as well, and there's huge calamity through the final corner. Andrew Venaro is in the wall. That's actually through the third to last corner, rather, but he's got heavy damage. There were a few others in the back. I think Jonathan Diggs might have been involved, and Michael Terrafino's retaking the lead from Pabiano. It's all kicking off at the end of lap 1.
Greg Doucette also getting turned around. There's the side-by-side with the draft effect. Pabiano, you see, though, has the better straight line speed, has the better run potentially for turn 3.
They're breaking into turn 3 here. Pabiano and Terrafino side by side. The outside line for Terrafino in that BMW works far better for him. He's got the momentum there. And as these two battle side by side, Angelo Veloz is right there in the background, hoping that they two come together, but they do not. Michael Terrafino clear of Pabiano into the braking zone here. Is Pabiano going to send it in again into turn 4 this time? He's not. He's got to get back single file, but that was a little deep by Terrafino.
I think you have to keep an eye on Veloz. It was talked about by some of the drivers throughout the preparation tonight amongst each other that they thought the Ferrari was much quicker down the straightaways, 6 miles an hour quicker to be precise, but they'll have to let the car rotate a lot more in turn with the speed.
By the way, those other drivers involved at the end of lap 1, Brian Hoskins, unfortunately, Barry Cochran, and Jason Lotridge. They have all gotten heavy damage from that little incident in the corner you see on your screen right now. But they are in the pits. They're going to try and get some damage repaired because there is a new rule change this season. Previous road course rules where you have to finish 50% of the race to score points at all, that's still the case. But if you finish lower than 31st in the PRL, you would normally get 0 points because the points didn't go that low. Now, if you finish 75% of the race and you still finish 31st or lower, you do get 1 point for your efforts. So you are rewarded for finishing the races.
Yeah, that's going to be critical. Making sure you survive, make sure you get points. You do not want to end off a round with zeros. Remember, there is a drop available, but you don't want to end up relying upon the drop, so to speak, especially early going. Because you never know if you get involved in an incident again. You never know if you're going to get involved in any situations with real world. You have to think a lot. Speaking of drivers, though, battling, 13th becoming a hornet's nest.
The whole Scherf family's in the chat, as they always are, cheering on Matt Scherf, but he has been displaced for 13th place by Alex Wright, who's trying to look his way forward. But here is P16, Dino Vella on a little bit of a recovery drive here, dives it to the inside of Jeff Costello. Pretty easy move there. I don't think Jeff was intending to fight that too hard. But Dino up into P15, and he looks a little bit forward to his teammate Rob Deloach. Forge Racing, it's a 50-car field. You might not think that, fighting for P15's all that great, but in round 1, that's definitely a goal you can search for, the top 15.
It's a solid banker at the very least. At the minimum, you want to get top 10, obviously, for the championship fight as the lowest mark if it comes down to that. But again, you get every spot you can. You take the spots as they will, and as we've seen in multiple series, Joey, you can be patient and cut your way to the pack. By the way, it seems like the 101 has really fallen off all of a sudden. Terrafino is up now over Below's big, and now contact.
And now Dale Peterson's going to get to the inside of Pabiano as well. He had a little moment through the final corner. That opened the door to Veloz, and he made another mistake into turn 1. Sometimes that can happen. Mistakes multiply. Michael Pabiano is certainly feeling the pressure right now. He fell off the back of Terrafino, and now he's lost 2 more spots for good measure. He's got to fight for 4th now as Martinez and Glover go side by side behind. It's a battle of the Ferraris, and is Rob Campbell going to think about sending it 3 wide? I don't think he'll have the straight line speed to do so.
If anything, he's boxed in here. In the popcorn seat, yes, in case there's a mistake, but can't really go much. Oh my! There's Benetti. Benetti nearly to the back end again of the Mercedes AMG.
Benetti using every single bit of brakes that Mercedes had. So well done to him for not actually getting into the back of Rob Campbell there. But I imagine that was quite a scary moment from the inside of the Andre Benetti mobile. He has managed to save it, though, but with that little bobble, he's now got Arangua and Morales right behind him. There is no safe spot on track right now. There are 50 cars on this racetrack. You're not going to find a place to fight on your own. You make one mistake, you are going to get swallowed up by some other drivers. But here we check back in on lap 1. I think that's Jeff Fleischman getting turned around at turn 3 there on lap 1. He got it going again, but Jeff Fleischman got bullied around a couple times last season. He's probably not going to be too happy by that one at turn 3. There's been another mistake for Andre Benetti. He's going to fall 3 wide almost. His teammate Rodrigo Morales peeks to the inside. Arangua falls back. Like I said, Justin, it's just a hornet's nest around here.
Yeah, Baron Glover had to slow down, so had to back off the gas. That caused the stack up, and our fellow broadcaster Gary Weaver has spun.
Oh dear. I hope his VR hasn't broken again, but yes, Gary Weaver has gone around. Let's just make the pain even worse by cutting back to him. Luckily, he didn't hit anything. If there's ever a good place to spin, that is probably one of them, because there's quite a bit of asphalt runoff there. He will rejoin the fray. It'll unfortunately only be down in 37th behind Ryan Luna. We've also lost in the meantime. Jonathan Diggs has gotten into trouble. Greg Doucette has gotten into trouble. Let's see what happened to Michel Plord on lap 1. Didn't get any help there. Just lost it on his own coming down the hill.
Like he didn't get hit, absolutely. Just kept it clean, turns it around. Flick spin. Just able to keep on chugging along. He's still in 43rd, unfortunately. 55 seconds behind the leaders.
Got quite a bit of work to do. We've eliminated about 7 drivers, but there's still 43 active cars still on the racetrack with no damage. So I'm thinking we're going to have to start thinking about lap traffic for the leaders very soon, because Michel Plord is already 53 seconds behind the leader. Frank Johnson is 50 seconds behind the leader. There's definitely going to be traffic for Terrafino to worry about. There is a new kind of traffic for everybody else in the field. on lap 1. That was the 333 of Jason Lotridge going around there. Barry Cochran got a bite out of that. Andrew Venaro ended up in the wall. Close quarters on lap 1. When somebody spins like that in a 50-car field, it's pretty hard to avoid it.
Absolutely, especially when they flick back up into the racing line like that. You have maybe half a second to react, and if you choose wrong, you end up getting damaged yourself. By the way, Costello here in this battle just had to slow down to serve for about 3-4 corners. Now he's up for grabs for Chandler and Kalinga as a result.
Those slowdowns of the Red Bull Ring, they'll always get you, especially the off tracks as well. I think I did get disqualified from a PRL F3 race for abusing the off tracks here at the Red Bull Ring. They certainly do bite, but they haven't bitten quite yet for Jeff Costello. He does have to fight with Ryan Chandler down the straight at the top of the hill. Chandler is going to be clear of him. The Mercedes, not necessarily the car everybody's thinking about in terms of straight line speed this season, but in comparison to the Lamborghini, it's working out for him.
Worked out well with some of the various lines and some of the struggles we're seeing with the drivers, in particular the tire model differences already seen for even the leaders. 6/7 of a second fall off. In the past, you may have seen maybe a tenth or two with some of the fuel burn from some top drivers.
Justin, I don't know if I went to the optometrist against my will or something, but Ryan Chandler doesn't have the glaucoma background anymore. This is a huge development for the new season. I can see the proprietary poster behind him. I can see the books behind him. I can see the TV behind him. It's beautiful. It's not blurred anymore.
Maybe he forgot this time.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Well, it is very intrusive on the frame rate too, to blur your entire background, is it not?
Yeah. It is, and I have to apologize to Ryan Chandler publicly. I was having a little bit of fun in week 13 running the new GR86 series, and I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my phone. I parked it on the pit exit, and I took out Ryan Chandler in a practice session. So sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry for that damage, but somehow I think he doesn't remember that. But, you know, you gotta clear up any doors that are open, don't you? Especially on week 13.
Yeah, door opened up on the outside there, near contact with the lockup in that side-by-side. But you know what else is starting to close up? I've noticed that Terrafino's starting to slip back a bit at the top of the field. Some of the drivers really sliding back and sliding around. This blue and silver machine on screen really looking like it's struggling.
It's pretty early days to be struggling. Still 25 minutes left of racing here to do. So you are struggling on those tires, as a lot of GT3 drivers do early on in the stint. It's a track where there are a lot of long straights. You do get a little bit of respite, but there's also a lot of high-speed corners. So once you do start heating up the tires, once you do start struggling with the tires, it's kind of hard to bring them back.
By the way, just as I said, the tire fall-off was starting to kick up a little bit. Terrafino and just about everyone else started to set their personal best lap time. So it seems as though as these track conditions switch around, as the marbles build up, some of the drivers having those bounce arounds where one lap they're back to that old feeling. Then they feel the new feeling and it throws them off.
Pabiano's trying to throw off Dale Peterson here. Did a little bit of a peek to the inside of turn 3. I don't think that was an actual intention of a move, just trying to spook old Dale just a little bit. But Dale Peterson is not an easily spooked driver. He's going to hold P3 for the moment. I don't actually remember if Dale Peterson ever got a podium last season. I don't think he did. He was strong. He was always around in the top 10, scoring good points, but getting on the podium is always an accomplishment everybody looks for. And Dale Peterson in that beautiful high letter yellow Ferrari that I'm not biased towards at all, he's got quite the effort to do now because Michael Pabiano is hounding him.
Yeah, they have been fairly close together for the past few laps, obviously. Pabiano set personal best last time by for the race. 3/10 lost to Peterson last time around. So the Lamborghini's got the pace. The problem is getting the pass done. And that takes a lot of work and is an art form to do just right, so you don't have contact or lose a spot.
Through the final corner, Pabiano seems to have figured things out. He was struggling a little bit earlier there when he was fighting with Terrafino and fighting with Veloz, but he has figured it out through turn 1. Ferrari versus Lamborghini, they actually seem fairly equal. But Pabiano has got a pretty good exit here. He's far closer than he was on the last lap. I think he will get a chance to peek to the inside of Dale Peterson unless Dale blocks to the inside. He's trying to decide. He parks it in the middle of the road. Do I go to the inside? Do I go to the outside? Eventually, he chooses that the inside is the place to be. And indeed, it does work out for him. Pabiano tried to go for a little bit of a switchback there, but he had a little bit of a bobble on the throttle. And that's going to minimize his run here. He's still going to have a run, but I'm not sure if he'll be close enough into turn 4.
Yeah, not close enough. If anything, they're dead even down the straightaway. Fabiano just cannot find the right line to make this work, to make the pass. He's good coming out of Niki Lauda, but the thing is, they're about even everywhere else.
Nicholas Miller in the chat says, Alex Wright better win or I'm raging. Well, Alex is up 3 spots, started 15th. He's up to P12, so he's on the up and up. About 12 and a half seconds to get up to Michael Terrafino, but I will never count anybody out Nicholas Miller, and I'm certainly here for an Alex Wright victory if he can drive his way forward. Check a little bit further back on the drive forward for Mr. Dino Vella as well for Forge Racing. Errol Urexoy is ahead of him. His teammate Rob Deloach is ahead as well. But somehow Dino's drive forward has ended up being a drive back, actually, because he was in 15th before, and now he's back in 16th, and he has 2 more moves to make.
Yeah, lost 5 spots from his qualifying position. Part of that is, if you look closely where it says Forge on that front end of that Audi, it is crumpled, and just the front metal, not the bumper, just the front metal and maybe part of the grille. So you have to wonder if there's that little damage impacting them.
They're going to have to forge a new one.
Very punny.
It's the first one of the season. We finally got it. Thank you, Forge Racing. There's so much opportunity for Forge jokes all of this season. Rob Campbell forges a new life in P5. He dives into the inside of Steven Martinez, but Martinez has the switchback, and we know that Ferrari's good in a straight line. You can see the effects here. There is no DRS. There may be the DRS sign in the background, but this is not an F1 race. The Ferrari is just that much faster in a straight line. He's already clear of Rob Campbell into the braking zone.
Yeah, but he was much slower in the midst of the corners, so that's the difficult trade-off, right? Where you're sending it so much harder into the corner, there's the chance of a little bit more of that tire wear and tire temperature from having to slow it down more drastically. Martinez, though, able to make it stick this time.
Dino Vella did get by Errol Urexoy for a moment in that battle we were watching earlier, but he has fallen behind once more, so there's been no change back there. Rob Campbell trying to fight back in some of these sectors where the Lamborghini fights back better through these high-speed corners. Through the second to last corner, you can see he's a little bit stronger. He's a little bit more confident as there's a little bit of oversteer from the Ferrari of Martinez. Whoa, Rob Campbell puts the bumper to Steven Martinez actually through the final corner. He had that much better of an exit. He had nowhere to go with it, though, and the straight line speed of the Ferrari again means Rob Campbell can't steal P5 back.
Yeah, that might have been a 0x. A little bit tight in terms of that contact to the point where that we were very close to the back end of the Ferrari, let's put it that way. But I will say this. You see that straight line speed really kicking things forward, just mitigating the draft difference.
Front bumper of that Lamborghini staying a little bit further back this time into turn 3, thankfully. And then Steven Martinez once more. You can physically see it. Sometimes there's cars that are better in a straight line. You know, it's like they pull forward a little bit. This Ferrari is very, very... It's almost OP in a straight line. I might be able to use that if I'm to use some gaming terminology. But again, you see Campbell. It's like a shark through the middle of the corner. He peaks a little bit forward, but he needs to pass Martinez in a place that isn't a straight, and that's pretty difficult at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how things are playing out here. You just see Campbell just able to launch it a little bit better through the corners. Martinez just struggling with that corner exit with his Ferrari compared to the car behind. But that's just the advantages and disadvantages with the BOP, right? And when it comes to the cars into themselves, each car has its strength, each car has its weaknesses. It's just a matter of having the right car for your skill set.
A little bit of understeer through the final corner for Campbell that time. Still not going to be an off track, or still not going to be a slowdown, rather. It might be an off track going that wide, so everybody does have to think about that. These are PRL road rules. You only get 13 off tracks before you get a drive-through. You only get 17 off tracks before you are disqualified. You're completely kicked out. I can speak from personal experience. I have hit that 13x limit many, many times, and it always seems to come at these grade 1 tracks, at the Red Bull Ring, at Silverstone, at wherever else. The track limits are very, very difficult, and it really pays to know where you can abuse the limits and where you can't.
That's why you study the rule book, right? And I'm not talking about just the PRL rules, the iRacing and sim rules that show those respective track limits on where you can put 4 tires. Taking a look at one of the battles for 8th, Morales try to hold on in front. This respective grouping, and the Forge car has added more damage.
There's Dino Vella, not pointing in the right direction anymore. His drive forwards to the field is no longer a drive backwards. It's just kind of a park backwards. But let's see what happened to him at turn 3 here. Oh, he clipped the curb. He clipped the sausage on the exit.
Yeah, just destabilized the car on the corner exit with the difference. And oh no.
It's Spin City. Matthias Arangua goes around at yet another corner coming down the hill. Did he get a little bit of help from the Ferrari? Yes, he did. He did not spin on a curb. He got punted around.
And then the ride of the sand doesn't help either with the transition out of it. Just a loop around forward, add insult to injury. That was a 2X from the 4X racing car.
Boy, they're all stacking up indeed here. Rob Campbell, and there's a 4X for him as Steven Martinez is a little bit deep into turn 1, has to slam on the brakes to not completely clobber the curb. And Rob Campbell was already committed. He basically had nowhere to go. Luckily, both of those cars didn't come out with more damage from that, but that was definitely going to be 4 more incident points for Rob Campbell.
Looks like Campbell may have gotten away with it. Maybe scrapes on the side of the Ferrari. Great exit for Martinez. This is a great section for him.
Here he comes again. The straight line speed of the Ferrari once again pays off. A little bobble in turn 1. He doesn't need to worry about that at all. 2 long straights later, and he's back clear of Rob Campbell again. Rob in that Lamborghini is probably thinking right now, what in the world do I have to do to get by this guy? No matter what happens, I'm still stuck behind him. I'm sick of seeing Ferrari bumper.
They're just about dead even, and that's the difficult thing. You see Campbell just great on the exits, but continuously having to check up. Eventually, your patience levels just trim away and chip away, chip away. It almost seems that patience level has reached near 0.
Rob's got a decent run here, but it's going to be very, very difficult to make a pass through Rint into turn 9. He knows that. He backs out. He tries to shape up a better run. He's not going to be able to pass Steven Martinez on the track, though, because pit stops have kicked off here. Michael Pabiano is in. Andre Bonatti is in. Steven Martinez is in. About 15 minutes to go. We've got pit stops.
See the slow roll on the limiter now for the 101 machine. Slid back after such a strong start to the race. Now it's the matter of can this undercut work. Did notice Steven Martinez lost a fair bit of time at his pit entry because he went a lot more careful compared to Bonatti, and that cost the 27 at least second on the entry.
And Bonatti's gone up on the jacks. Bonatti's taking tires. I have heard that some drivers might consider taking 2 tires here because this track is almost all right turns, but that has cost Bonatti a lot of time. I don't know if it's worth it.
He just went backwards off the jacks. He was in reverse for the jacks.
Dear. It gets worse.
Yeah, Bonatti lost a fair bit of time there. 6 seconds, about 5-6 seconds, the difference between tires and fuel only.
Even more work to do for Bonatti. We see a few other drivers cycling through. Roy Brown, I mentioned that he was way deeper in the field than we'd expect him to be. Roy Brown is not a 40th place qualifying driver usually. Well, the Team Beef driver is up to P20. Of course, there's been a few pit stops. There's been about 8 drivers bringing it down, but that is still many, many spots up for Roy Brown, at least for the moment. He is currently behind Selden Hamilton, one of our new names, and he's ahead of Phil Amaro. Not necessarily a new name. He's one of the Britannia drivers, but back in this series, or rather showing his nose in this series for the first time.
You can even see just how strong that apex speed is. Just the better exit for Hamilton on the corner exits. Just not the good track position. It seems like more stops coming over. Hamilton saying he wants to come in now.
Morales is in, Wright is in, Steffi, Chandler, Deloach. Roy Brown isn't going to come in, but Hamilton did indeed come in. Whole host of drivers coming in. None of the leaders, though. Terrafino's still out there. Veloz is still out there. Peterson, Campbell, Glover, Scherf, Pabiano, the only driver from that lead pack who has come down. It's a very, very wide open pit window. Nobody's really taking tires. There's been a few drivers who are taking 2 tires, and Ryan Luna has had a little bit of trouble coming into the pits.
That's not a good sign for these drivers right now for that entry. I don't think that was intended for Luna. Seems he may have gotten way loose at the wrong place, wrong time.
And I think Regan Chandler might have also been involved in that. He might have been the driver who Ryan Luna either collected or whatever happened there. We'll have to take a look, but it's a very, very busy pit lane right now. You see Ryan Luna in that banana yellow car. Finally has brought it down pit lane, so pit stop's kicking off for the entirety of the field here, and it's one of the widest pit windows. There's basically any time between about 23 minutes to go and probably about 10 minutes to go. You just got to choose where the best time is to come in.
There come the race leaders, though. The top three all in at the same time. Terrafino gained a little bit before his entry. See how the exit is, though.
Can all come undone on pit lane. Seems fine for Terrafino, seems fine for Veloz, seems fine for Dale Peterson. So though any racing they have to do will likely be on the track. Terrafino leaves the box 11.4 seconds, 12 seconds for Veloz. Pretty similar for Dale Peterson, 12.2. So no harm, no foul through the pit lane. But Terrafino has found a critical extra couple of tenths. He's expanded his lead to Veloz.
That's why you practice pit entry and exit. Some drivers did that. This is what happened with that side slide. Same time, you see right there, one driver says, you know what, I'll pit instead. Unfortunately, that was the wrong choice either way.
Yeah, blind corner for Regan Chandler, and I don't know if he saw Ryan Luna until the very last moment, but bad luck for Regan Chandler there. There was indeed a Lamborghini broadside across the track, and you can see the effect of Terrafino's good run through the lane. That was only about a 1 second difference between Terrafino and Veloz before the pit cycle. It's now 3 seconds between your race leader and second place Veloz. Dale Peterson 3 more seconds behind, and Pabiano with that early stop has found himself right behind Dale Peterson. So that might be a battle for the podium. There's still battles for track position here. Jeff Costello dives into the inside of the Audi of Eric Kalaga. A little bit of argy-bargy there side by side, but they have gotten away with it for the moment.
For now is the key word in the midst of that. But that blue and Silverati having the better run on the apex. Deloche now under attack now from the 4.
Matias Arangua, another driver trying to recover after getting punted around by a unidentified Ferrari that I don't actually remember who it was, so I can't shame them, but he has gotten by Rob Deloche. Now he's got pressure ahead, he's got pressure behind. That's not always the situation you want to be in, especially when you are a faster driver than everybody in front of you, but you know that you've got a fast driver and Rob Deloche behind you as well. So Arangua is going to have a busy last 10 minutes of this race. Matt Scherf, by the way, from the race lead has finally brought it down. Sully Saad has brought it down as well, and that should finish off the pit cycle for the entirety of this grid, and we'll see where Scherf legitimately cycles out. I think it should be around P12.
Solid run for him, a bad corner exit there. Another slowdown for the 87, his second in the past 6 or so laps in that section. And he just continues to bleed spots in that one spot. Oh
dear, that's a lapped car around, and that is not the place where Jeff Costello. Oh, and Jeff Costello is around. For some reason, he decided to go to the right there. He clipped the grass, and he is in the Armco. So bad luck for Jeff Costello there. Maurice Gomillon is going to take advantage of that lapped car as well. Arangua also, in the meantime, got through Eric Kalaga. And Steven Martinez and Rodrigo Morales are going on it as well. There's a little bit of a calm period in the middle of this race, and it's all kicking off again with 9 more minutes to go.
What can you say? The first few minutes after a pit stop, usually very busy, and we're seeing the very busy coming in. But Martinez having a chance to get back to where he started the race again. You just see that trouble in the middle of the corners that's been hampering his ability to just plow through cars. Speaking of cars.
And speaking of plowing through, I think Colin McKenzie did get turned around there, so another driver who wasn't able to qualify, started about 50th or 40th or whatever he was. Bad luck for him. Under braking into turn 4. No, he didn't get hit. He did not get hit by anybody. Lucio Vargas was completely innocent there. He just managed to lock the rears of that Audi.
And just looped it around with the speed on the corner. Here comes the chance, though, for Martinez. Solid corner exit. But Morales has been holding firm, already going defensive.
It was a bad stop for Steven Martinez that's got him this far in the field. He was fighting with Rob Campbell for the top 5. Now he's just trying to fight to stay on the track as Rodrigo Morales goes full defensive mode under braking. Ferrari of Steven Martinez, though, might be behind the Mercedes, but we know it is very, very strong in a straight line. He's going to pull alongside Rodrigo here on the straight. He's going to be side by side on the braking into turn 4, but Rodrigo's not going to leave him any room whatsoever. Going around the outside of turn 4 is hard enough. He's going to switch back to the inside, though. Rodrigo got a little bit too deep on the brakes, and Steven Martinez is going to try and go around the outside again at turn 6.
Yeah, another squeeze right there, forcing him off the gas. Martinez not going to be happy about that one.
He's definitely not going to be happy at all. Rodrigo is leaving him no room whatsoever. He's leaving him room, I should say, but he's not leaving him any more room than he could possibly need. He's leaving precisely a Ferrari-sized gap to the side of the track, and Steven Martinez is probably not too happy about that. I don't know if we can really punish Rodrigo Morales for that. He's just getting very, very aggressive. If Martinez gets very, very aggressive in return, though, that is when incidents can happen. So you gotta be careful going this hard for P6, but Rodrigo's defending with his life.
Alex Wright starting to join the conversation here too, because they're starting to fight so hard. Last time by 1 second gain. So the Alex Wright fan club going to have a lot to cheer for if they can make that recovery up from a mid-pack qualifying.
Like Billy Joel said, he may be right, and he may get P6 here. Morales and Martinez side by side again into turn 3. Morales leaves him a little bit more room there. And Martinez hits him on the turn in. Alex Wright does indeed say, "Thank you very much. I will take that P6," as you two run into each other. And Alex Wright has booked himself up into P6. The straight line speed of the Ferrari of Steven Martinez is normally pretty helpful for him, but no, he's not going to be able to pull to the inside of Alex Wright. He pulls to the inside of Wright, though, very late in the brakes. Wright leaves him a ton of room, and those 2 spots that Wright gained, looks like he's going to lose them as soon as he got him back.
Morales had to lift hard to be able to avoid the back end of the 33 there, gave him a solid break. Now Baron Glover and Jay Steffi are now joining the conversation too with how hard this fight's getting. Morales just struggling though on that corner exit, still pushing tight like we've seen.
And Jay Steffi as well is going to join the fray. Matt Scherf as well is going to join the fray. So it is quite the battle here for the last couple of spots in the top 10. See if Alex Wright in this Lamborghini can bring anything to the fight with Steven Martinez. The Lamborghini has not been the car to have compared to the Ferrari in this series. But it's almost like a Rob Campbell situation again. I guess that's fitting because Alex is Rob's teammate. He's driving the same livery. I'm having a little bit of deja vu here with a Lamborghini trying to pass this Ferrari of Steven Martinez.
Yeah, the lunatic driver. Good chance here. Martinez lost a little bit of ground, hit the sausage curb, lucky to hold on to it.
Lamborghini is not quite fast enough in a straight line to take advantage. Will Alex Wright dive into the inside? He does peek to the inside. Can he be late enough on the brakes to not get into the side of Martinez? Yes, he can. Martinez saw it coming, left him a ton of room, and Alex Wright, with a great dive, is up into P6. Martinez is going to try and fight back again. He's going to be the driver on the outside this time, under braking into turn 4. He can't be later than Wright on the brakes, though. Wright's a little bit too late on the brakes, but he does manage to get it stopped, and he manages to get it stopped ahead of Martinez.
Yeah, I had a big bobble under the brakes. Here comes Martinez, though, with the crossback.
Around the outside in turn 6 is always difficult. Isn't going to work for him. He is going to go for the crossback. He peeks to the inside, and he actually hits the back of Alex Wright. There was definitely a crunch there. There is a little bit of damage on the rear end of that Lamborghini now, and that was quite forceful from Steven Martinez. I don't think he intended to shove him out of the way, but in the process of doing that switchback, that was more of a push off the track.
Martinez definitely not making it easy for his competitors to pass. He's making it clear, you want to pass me? You're going to have to fight for it.
And suddenly his old buddy Rodrigo Morales is behind him. Somehow they've joined each other in the fight for P6 again. And we know how aggressive Rodrigo was in defense. We'll see how aggressive he can get on offense. 4 minutes to go in this race. Only 3 more laps. So if you're going to make the move, you got to make it soon. Martinez again bobbles in turn 1 a little bit. He's not maximizing his runs down this straight. Morales is going to stick in the draft here. The Mercedes a little bit slower in a straight line than the Ferrari, but Morales is still going to be able to peek to the outside. Martinez might have a little bit of front end damage from hitting the back of Wright, and that might be slowing him down a little bit in the straight. Wright's going to dive to the inside again into turn 3, and he will get by Rodrigo Morales.
See the bit of the reaction of the steering wheel in the battle behind them. Trouble. Jay Steffi in the Vulture car turns 2 cars.
And Bonatti's in the wall, Steffi's in the wall, Baron Glover is in the wall. Matt Scherf was the only driver in that little fray there that made it through. What in the world happened there? They were all tripping over each other through turn 3, and then Suddenly they all decided to kill each other on the back straight here. We'll catch a replay when we can, but there are some heavily damaged Audis and Ferraris out here now.
I will say this. We've seen 3 wide a couple times in that section. It hasn't worked out well, Joey.
It has not worked out well, and it did not work out well this time. The Ferrari of Baron Glover just kind of in the sandwich there. Nothing he really could have done there. And then Andre Bonatti's just trying to come through. He hits the Ferrari, and then the Ferrari and the Audi come together. What a mess.
What a mess indeed. Mandatory repairs for Baron Glover from that contact as we take a look at some of the other drivers sorting each other out. By the way, a couple drivers reached the incident limit with a couple to go. Dino Villa and Ryan Luna, both black flags to serve.
Baron Glover's going to bring it down pit lane. Jay Steffi still out there on track, surprisingly, so I don't think he'll have to come down. Glover had damage, and he might have a penalty as well, so he's going to be sitting on pit lane for quite a while. That's disappointing. He was having a good race, but unfortunately it's all come undone in the final 3 minutes, and indeed that was just a drive-through there. He did not stop. No damage, or if there was damage to fix, he's not going to get it fixed. But the battles rage on. It's Lamborghini v. Lamborghini. Jeff Costello versus Lucio Vargas versus Colin McKenzie for the last spot in the top 20. Costello's going to hang on for the moment.
Decent recovery, I will say, for McKenzie from a no qualifying spot, essentially for time, should say, to being the biggest mover. Able to charge his way to the pack, might not get the top 20, but at the very least has a strong chance for the 21st here.
Peeked to the inside of Lucio Vargas, couldn't quite get the run. A little bit of, I think that is Baron Glover there in that Ferrari, who does have a little bit of damage. So I'm not going to count Colin McKenzie out for the top 20. That would be quite the accomplishment from, where was he, 48th on the grid to 20th. Even if it is 21st or 22nd, any race where you're driving up the field 20 spots, that's quite an accomplishment to hang your hat on.
And Baron Glover still has mandatory repairs, so it looks like at the very least what he's trying to do is not have to serve the meatball since the final 3 laps or so of the race. There goes 21st.
Colin McKenzie sees Lucio Vargas. Of course, he's happy driving his way through the field 25 spots, but he wants a top 20. He wants that number. That is very, very important to him. Michael Terrafino, a few seconds ago, by the way, did take the white flag, I think, or he might take it on this lap. It depends on the time, but there is the number on your screen. 27 spots up, and Alex Wright's dive to the inside of Steven Martinez as well. The battle for P6 is not over either. And that was a little bit loose from Alex Wright. That looked like it was a little bit forceful. We caught the dying seconds of it.
I think it was like 10 car lengths back, but we'll say this. Experience pays off in the case of the 94. This is going to be close for time.
I think Terrafino will make it to the line for one more lap, but the question is, has he put enough fuel in the car for one more lap? He was in the box for 6 less tenths than Angelo Veloz. Michael Terrafino takes the white flag. Does he have one more lap of Red Bull Ring in the tank? I can't imagine he's made a fuel mistake. I have to imagine he's calculated this, but you can see under braking, Veloz was quite a bit faster than Terrafino under braking. Is Terrafino lifting a little bit? He lost all of it behind the lap cars, but there was a little bit of an advantage there for Veloz for a moment.
I think he's still in a decent spot as long as he doesn't run out, per se. The speeds are about even. Veloz with that traffic lost a ton of ground. In fact, Terrafino's picking it back up.
Yeah, Veloz is just absolutely stuck behind that lapped Ferrari. That is Gary Weaver in the Ferrari, who isn't really holding up Angelo Veloz. He's not doing anything wrong, but unfortunately Angelo just can't really get by him. But Michael Terrafino in the Team Beef entry, 2.3 seconds over Angelo Veloz. We were watching practice. We were thinking, you know, it's good to see Terrafino back. Good to see him challenge for the championship, as there goes Colin McKenzie around again. He's still going to be up 20-plus spots, so no harm, no foul there, I guess. But he's going to be disappointed with that, as Alex Wright's gone around as well. It's been a terrible last lap for Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing. It's been a great final lap for Michael Terrafino, though. He has put enough fuel in the car. He will cross the line for one more victory here. Let's see what happened to Alex Wright first. He got help from Steven Martinez there, absolutely. That was not just him looping it around. Here comes Michael Terrafino for Team Beef. After dominantly winning the championship last season, he kicks off the next season in the best way possible. Michael Terrafino wins in the Red Bull Ring. Angelo Veloz brings it home P2. And Dale Peterson, he's got to hold off Michael Paviano here coming to the line for P3. And indeed he does. Dale Peterson, podium in the first race of the season.
Well done indeed for Peterson to hold on in that battle, but Terrafino, just that experience really paying off for the 94 camp. See the rest of the drivers finish. That Matt Sheriff camp going to be very excited because they're able to hold on to the 53 and have a shot for 7th, still a top 8.
Indeed, P8 for Matt Scherf. Great run for him. A little bit deeper in the field in qualifying than he would have liked. Matthias Orang was falling back. I think he has actually run out of fuel. Steffi gets by him. Rob DeLoach crosses the line to finish P12. Kalaga P11. Everybody's cycling through here now. With a 50-car field, there's understandably quite a bit of field spread, but a lot of names here. Urexoy, Cowgill, Brown up a ton of spots. A lot of drivers had some good recoveries just by staying out of trouble.
Absolutely. Some drivers, teams have disappeared from the racetrack during the final lap. Not great. Dino Villa had a spin or two in the final stages. Colin McKenzie, we've seen his spin after a chance to get into the top 20, doesn't. For some of the drivers, they're going to be thinking, thank goodness this checker flag is waving. For others, absolutely going to be pumped up to start the season off the right way in many of their cases.
And I'd be remiss to mention that it's about to get even crazier. We will talk to our top 3, hopefully, in the GT3 Fix Series, but after this, Justin, we've got the GT3 Sprint Series with the Pro-Am split. But first of all, Michael Terrafino is your victor once again. Angelo Veloz P2, Dale Peterson finishes off the podium. Michael Papiano had a ton of speed, couldn't quite fight for the win this week. Michael Papiano finishes in 4th. Rob Campbell rounds out the top 5, and Rodrigo Morales finished in P6. Steven Martinez, a little bit of argy-bargy on the last lap, finished P7, and Matt Scherf pleases the chat, finishes P8. Alex Wright spun on the final lap as well, but he still came home P9, and Jay Steffi survives for P10. Eric Kalaga P11, Rob DeLoach P12 in his first race here in the GT3 Fix Series. Matthias Arangua, Maurice Gomillon, Errol Urexoy, Patrick Cowgill, Sully Saad, Roy Brown, Jeff Costello, and Lucio Vargas round out the top 20. P21 went to Phil Amaro, Aiden Irvin, Selden Hamilton, Glenn Vanko were the top 24. Colin McKenzie, P25, still about 22 spots up in the race, so he's going to be happy with that. Michael Kalaga, Felix Feliz, Drew DeWeese, Mark File, Dino Vella, and a few others still finished on the lead lap. Colin McKenzie actually has been demoted down to P28 with a penalty at the end of the race, by the way. Greg McEnany went 1 lap down. Gary Weaver went 1 lap down. Frank Johnson, Jeff Fleischman, Michel Plord, Liam Park, Ryan Chandler, Waldo Walden, Baron Glover, all 1 lap down. Jordan Walker ended up 2 laps down. 3 laps down was Andre Benatti, and then we start getting into the used car lot. Regan Chandler and Ryan Luna crashed into each other on pit entry. Barry Cochran was eliminated on lap 1. Brian Hoskins also was. Greg Doucette, Jonathan Diggs, Jad Khalif, Andrew Venaro, and Jason Lotridge round out 50 cars in the field tonight. And there's going to be 50 more coming up in the next race. So I hope my voice survives, Justin. But first of all, we do have last season's champion and this season's first winner, Michael Terrafino. What better way to start a season?
That's a pretty good start to the season, especially at a fun track like Red Bull Ring.
We've been hearing everybody talk about, the Ferrari's the car to have. The Lamborghini might be second, but you kept with the BMW, and clearly it worked for you. Why did you stick with the BMW even after the changes to the GT3s?
Honestly, I didn't want to make a new paint for a different car.
Valid.
So I just updated this one a little bit, and just stuck with the BMW. It worked for me well last season, so why not?
So it's a new season, different tracks, different drivers. Pabiano put up quite the fight in qualifying in the early stages of the race. How do you think this season's going to go for you? Are you going for championship number 2?
See what happens, but yeah, may as well go for it. Long season, though. A lot of races still.
Indeed, a long season, but we wish you and Team Beef good luck. Always love seeing those paint schemes on the track, even if they are still on the BMW, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Michael Terrafino, your inaugural victor of this season. I did see Angelo Veloz ready to talk to us, Justin, but he's disappeared. So hopefully Angelo Veloz will come back soon. Hopefully we get to talk to him, and hopefully we get to talk to Dale Peterson as well. I want to talk to all of our podium sitters, but whilst we wait to see if anybody else will come in, your first thoughts, Justin, the first race of the season, and it's always crazy.
You have the veteran experience from the previous season crossing over with Terrafino's run absolutely in that respective race. I was expecting a lot more, I will say, from Papiano with what he was showing in practice and how he was consistent there. he just seemed to fall off the table once the tire wear started to kick up, once the race itself kicked in. It really shook things up a little bit and how things played out. But overall, a lot of solid drives, a lot of drivers able to put on some strong fights and show that a lot of these cars are pretty close, even with the advantages and disadvantages. That Ferrari in particular, gonna be a big-time draft train mode, while it seems the Lambo might be big-time send mode car.
Well, speaking of big-time draft mode cars and the Ferrari, Angelo Veloz is here, and he's ready to talk to Justin.
Yes, indeed. Angelo, talk us through your run tonight, starting off in fourth, second step of the podium to start the new season.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Radio? Hi. Well, I'm very happy with the result, but Terrafino has an unbelievable last sector and impossible to get him. But very happy.
How was it trying to adjust to the updates with the new build, in particular with the damage model, but also the tires in your Ferrari?
No, because I used Ferrari last season and I really like this style, and I feel a little difference on tires, but nothing really great. It's okay for me. The temperature is a problem, but always was, so okay.
Well, of course, strong start to the season, second round of the campaign, a major talking point with Autodromo Nacional Monza. Very much expect to be very quick, some of the discussion around that racetrack at the Grand Prix layout.
Hello.
And I believe we've lost him.
He's that shocked by Monza. He's that excited that he lost his voice. Unfortunately, some technical difficulties for Angelo Veloz, but that does give us the opportunity to talk to one more driver. Dale Peterson, I did just check, 4th place at the end of last season. You've one-upped it. You've got your first podium here. How does that feel?
It feels great. Don't know what to do or where to go. Usually I just park it in the pits and go home.
Some victory donuts. There's a lot of asphalt runoff around here. I guess some Austrian donuts, if not. But talk us through this season coming up. You've lost your old buddy Dave Peterson. You can't be fighting with him anymore. But there is still quite the GT3 fixed field. How do you think you're going to stack up championship-wise over the next 9 weeks?
I don't know. I'm going to miss a couple of weeks. We're going to be away, like a lot of people, through Christmas time, so I'll miss a couple of races. But I'm not on a team this year. I left the guys with plow valve. We're just down to one team, so just do it as a privateer, and whatever happens, happens.
Why'd you go with the highlighter yellow on the car?
Favorite color, just like lucky number 6.
I knew you were my favorite, Dale Peterson. I knew it. I love a good highlighter yellow car, but I'm not biased at all. Congrats on the podium here, and we wish you good luck for the rest of the season.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for everything you do.
Good old Dale Peterson. Glad to finally get to talk to him. His first PRL podium. It's always quite the accomplishment, Justin.
Well, the accomplishment indeed, especially with the work he had to put in to do that, to be able to hold on in the midst of those fights. But now, it's going to be interesting how the fights will be in Sprint Series competition right on the docket at the same racetrack. And now, the intensity level is going to get even higher.
Even higher indeed. A lot of familiar names, a lot of new names as well, and we might have to talk about the absences of some of the top names in the series. Sean Campbell and Vincent Trepanier, the two dominant drivers of last season, not signed up for this series. They've both moved to other PRL series this season. And Diego Morales, who was kind of the third driver fighting for all the wins last season, well, he's on a part-time schedule this season. So suddenly there is a vacuum at the head of the field, and that might just be filled by the returning winningest driver in PRL GT3 history, Karl Modhoff. So it's going to be quite the interesting season. Of course, the schedule will be exactly the same as the GT3 fixed series, but let's remind ourselves of it. Why not? Let's remind ourselves where Manny Corey is. I already forgot where it was. It'll be January 31st. It'll be the 7th race of the season, so these drivers will have quite a bit of time to acclimate themselves to the new GT3 shenanigans, all the new physics, all the new things. By the time we get to the new track at Magny-Cours, they should be pretty comfortable.
Absolutely, especially with the differences with the cars this season, even in with the midst of the holiday break you throw in there, so to speak. With the holiday cheer some of these drivers will be having in the next couple weeks. In seriousness though, this season going to be very challenging. Lots of more rhythm grade 1 tracks to start off, but of course speed at Daytona, and you mentioned of course Road America, going to be a fun one for some of them later on in the year too.
It's the holiday season. I don't think I can sing that song. I don't think that's royalty free, but practice has just come to an end here in the GT3 Sprint Series, and it's Noah Anderson, P1 in practice over Daniel Krasowski. Karl Modoff only P3, so I was looking at Karl Modoff as the driver who'd likely take up the reins. Martin Crisp and Sean Dickinson for SimCity as well. But that's a surprising name in Noah Anderson, a new name to this series. Daniel Krasowski, though, for PRL Esports. I guess it's no surprise, or Precision Racing Esports, I should say. No surprise to see him pretty quick at the top as well.
Yeah, some of the drivers with the experience going to be, of course, you mentioned, Precision Racing Esports drivers going to be very quick. You need to be consistent. You need to be quick to be able to do well. Interestingly enough, very low in the practice. Much of the session was low until the final moments. So we'll have to see if a few drivers were holding back a little bit before turning up the wick for quality.
I hope he's not Ted bagging. That would be that'd be grounds for a complaint if he was Ted bagging in the session.
What's Ted bagging?
It's sandbagging, but for Ted.
So basically sandbagging?
Yes. Nick McLaughlin did not sandbag last season. Some of us theorized that he might be. He was the AM champion 2 seasons ago. Couldn't quite match that speed in the pro class last season, but he is back as a pro again in the Precision Racing Esports colors this season. We'll see if he can get back to the old Nick McLaughlin we all know and love. He's back in the Ferrari now. I can speak from personal experience from the PRL Ferrari Challenge a couple of seasons ago. When this guy is in a Ferrari at the Red Bull Ring, he is very, very tough to beat. There's something about that combination for Nick McLaughlin that really, really clicks. And I think this is probably his best chance to get back to form.
And as we've seen, the Ferrari really good down the straightaways to be able to set passing opportunities. So if he remains consistent through the corners and does well in turn on taking advantage of that straight line speed, he might have a strong chance here. The downside is he was nearly a full second, in fact 1.2 seconds off the top time in practice, Joey. We'll have to see if he's able to pick it up in qualifying. He did spend a lot of time off and on the racetrack.
Maybe doing some last-minute setup work. That's entirely possible in the conniving mind of Nick McLaughlin and everybody over at Precision Racing Esports. Sector 1, 21.9. It's impossible to really tell if that's an especially good first sector, because I believe Nick is indeed the first driver on track right now, so he is wasting no time. Sometimes we do go to tracks that are a little bit too long for the 10-minute qualifying session. You don't get all 4 of your laps. The Red Bull Ring is a fairly short lap. You do get plenty of time to complete all your laps, but Nick McLaughlin clearly thinks the best time of the session is the earliest time of the session.
And it just so happens the clouds are starting to come over the racetrack. Maybe that'll help with the track temp to be able to add a little more speed to it.
Through turn 7, looks pretty tidy, maybe a little bit of understeer, but he keeps it out of the gravel all the way to the left here in what is essentially not a corner, but then through the final 2 corners into Rindt, just absolutely fling the Ferrari in there. Might have been a little bit, and there's the off track, a little bit too wide, I think. Through turn 9, he doesn't seem too pressed about it, so he might have just barely been in the limits, but it is very give or take there. Nick McLaughlin's going to cross the line. It's a 1:30.6. The question is, will it actually count for him? No, it will not. That was an off track.
If that would have counted, though, that still would have put him probably in the mid-pack at best. And now we're off track right there. It looks like that's Miguel Angelfonska, and he knows it. He's saying, you know what? I'll try this again.
How about that for a new livery for Miguel Angel Fonseca, our AM winner in the GT3 Sprint Series last season. He's been promoted up to pro, and that is quite the livery. Miguel always brings the fire with the liveries. Boris Angel Ovando, has put it on pole, so something about drivers with Angel as their middle name, it is pretty darn good. Boris O on pole for the moment, but Martin Crisp, a driver who could absolutely fill the vacuum that Campbell and Trepanier have left. He did win a race last season at Suzuka. He finished second on the track. He did win the race because Sean Campbell got disqualified for doing his carousel, but a win is a win, and Martin Crisp has that momentum coming into this season.
Did well in practice as well. In fact, top 5 in the session, as talked about a little bit. And we've seen with this Lamborghini too, going to be one car to watch when it comes to the braking zones to see how confident he is to send it. Might get it off track there. That was close to the end of the rumble strip.
The fact that we have Martin Crisp in Austria does not make my hunger any worse. The second I knew we were coming to Austria tonight, I was thinking about schnitzel, and now I just want a crisp schnitzel. So Martin Crisp is really making me hungry here. But through the final corner, is it a crisp lap time? Is it it's a crisp line through the final corner? Doesn't get an off track, brings it to the line. Where can Martin Crisp go on that first lap? Can he live up to the expectations? No, because that lap isn't going to count. No, it is P6. It is P6 for Martin Crisp. It's a little bit of a delay, but Martin Crisp does indeed put a P6.
Still able to make it count just barely, we'll say, with how close it got. But Pat Helchat is at the top of the board here, a 129.6 in a Ferrari.
Boom. Beats Boris Ovando off a pole. And Alex Caruso, who is technically classified as an AM, is currently P3. I have a feeling that his ranking might get changed if his streak continues this way. But an AM driver in P3, very impressive. Elliott White, we know him from the NASCAR College Series. Actually, he's been doing a lot of that racing. He's also been racing in the PRL Cup Series, but he has gotten behind the wheel of a GT3 car, and he is showing his road course prowess here in P4. Karl Modoff, the winningest PRL GT3 driver ever, P5. Martin Crisp right behind him. Connor Wagner in P7 is the F3 Pro champion from a few seasons ago. He also showed a lot of pace in this car last season, but didn't compete in the full season. Zach Kerr, unrelated to Floyd Kerr, but is actually Floyd Kerr's teammate, is P8. Dennis Anderson, or rather Noah Anderson, P9, and Daniel Krasowski, P10. So 1 and 2 in practice, only 9 and 10 in the race, in the qualifying so far.
And still have about less than 4 minutes to work with. Here's a look at that 22. Bumped down now to 5th position, in fact. 4th and pro. Needs to be able to find just a couple more tenths. Connor Wagner, top of the board.
There he goes. He showed us that pace last season, put it on pole at Laguna Seca, and then was never seen again after that season, I think. But he's back on pole. Could this be his second GT3 pole? Can Karl Modoff steal it from him? No, he cannot. He was about 4 seconds off on that lap. A little bit of a mistake for Karl in that Delta Sport livery, that ever familiar Delta Sport livery. He was competing in the IMSA Esports series here on RaceSpot a few weeks ago, so clearly a driver with absolute tons of GT3 experience. He needs to find a couple extra tenths, though, on this lap.
Right now, seems to be just starting to plateau a little bit. Keep in mind, let's take a look at the 2 machine. Boris Joe Vando trying to find that rhythm. He also has already came to the pit lane, remember, and validated the last lap time.
I think Boris is just trying to get a little bit of extra practice here, a little bit of extra running. Don't think it'll count anything for him, so he can start at best P3. There's a lot of big names at the bottom of the order who have yet to get qualifying laps in. Ted Lowendick. Well, as I say that, Ted does finally put a lap time down, but Gonzalo Cortez and Dominic Olivier have also yet to qualify. So a lot of big names really waiting until the last possible moment here. Here is Gonzalo Cortez. Far less easy to identify this season as Elliott White puts it up on pole now. But Gonzalo Cortez, you might remember him from last season in that bright red Porsche. Well, now he is in a Stealth Fighter black Lamborghini. Somehow I still think we'll be able to identify him through the final corner. Here comes Gonzalo Cortez. Can he break up the White and Wagner party on the front row? So close, but not close enough. And Daniel Krasowski actually goes to pole. He dumps Elliott White off the top spot. Dominic Olivier, GT3 experience extraordinaire. Can he break Daniel Krasowski's heart? Not quite. 130.0. Dominic's only going to go P13.
All 4 lap times invalidated.
Ouch.
Unbelievable.
That is an oof for Dominic Olivier, the only driver who hasn't completed a lap time. He will start 55th in the order tonight. That is just heartbreaking for him. His teammate Nathan Bartley here in the Porsche, currently P14. See if he can join his teammate Daniel Krasowski on pole through the final couple of corners here. Looks pretty tidy, looks pretty quick, keeps it within the confines of the track here through the final corner. Can he find those 6 extra tenths that his teammate had in the Ferrari? Brings it to the line. He finds 2,000ths. Not quite enough, though.
Not able to jump in front of Raymond Yip or anybody in front of him there. Seems like most drivers completed their work. Martin Crisp did have an off track, so this one not going to count. Seen him stop for a fair bit on the racetrack. Seems like qualifying coming to a close, and big shocker for Olivier, 55th place, absolutely. Lafleur, looking to close out the session here with a 130 flat. That gets him up a few spots.
Lafleur does get a couple of extra spots there, but Daniel Krasowski, not a driver who's new to the PRL. He's been on pole 4 times before, all the way back in season 1 of 2022. So he is no stranger to GT3 cars. He's no stranger to the PRL. He is back on top. Daniel Krasowski will start from pole for the 5th time in his PRL career. Elliott White, who will be racing also in the PRL Xfinity Series this season. I think he might be in the Cup Series as well. He will start on the front row alongside him. Connor Wagner for Delta Sport. It's all Delta Sport in the second row with Wagner and Karl Modoff, both very, very strong competitors. Patrick Pelchat puts it P5 alongside Boris Angel Ovando. Alex Caruso, classified as an AM for Race Factory, probably might be reconsidered after this week. He starts alongside Martin Crisp, and Sean Dickinson for SimCity as well is P9. Zach Kerr is P10. Miguel Angel Fonseca, last season's AM champion, 10th in pro, and Noah Anderson, who topped practice, only P12 in qualifying. Matthew Thunhorst starts P13 alongside Raymond Yip. Andres Espinoza, who won a few races in the Fixed Series last season, starts 15th in the Sprint Series. Danny Lafleur, P16. Nathan Bartley and Ethan Osowski for Forge Racing is P18. Nick McLaughlin starts 19th alongside Thomas Dunn. And downtown Gary Brown, 2nd in AM in 21st overall. Josh Spears starts 22nd, and Nikos Sanadakis is back in 23rd. Turner Schroll, always strong, P24. P25, a pro Ted Lowendick for what else but Team Tedline. Caleb Lehman won his first race in AM last season. He's a pro now. Baked Ziti Blake Ziti starts P27, and John Antonino starts alongside him. Nathan Deering and Chase Brown round out the top 30, but we're barely halfway through. Darren Rutherford, P31. Floyd Kerr could have been the champion in the Fixed Series last season, but he had a little bit of trouble with VR failures and bad luck. He starts P32 here. Jennifer McDonald, P33, alongside Matt Hilton, P34. Gonzalo Cortez didn't get a lap time good enough on the board, P35. And the F3 AM champion of a couple seasons ago, Ryan Pucktel, is 36th. David Mendonca is 37th. Jerome Bertiome, the PRL god, is 38th. Greg Conaway is 39th, and Nicholas Larson is 40th. Jeff Carollo, also moving from the Fixed Series, starts along Romain Faux for 42nd. 43rd went to Kwok Nin. Cedric Nevu, 44th. David Leman, 45th. Christopher Rhines, 46th. Supreme Court Justice William Brennan moves up from the GT4s in 47th alongside Sean McInnes. And there's still more coming. Sean Carmody, 49th. Vicente Sepulveda, 50th. Mathieu Denis, 51st. David Morse, 52nd. John Barry, 53rd. And Giambattista Giacchetti was the last driver to get a lap time on the board. Dominic Olivier, a pro, one of the fastest drivers in the field, will start 55th. So he has quite the work to do here. But it's time to go GT3 racing once more. 55 cars at the Red Bull Ring. It's Daniel Krasowski back on top, and he leads the field to green. We're going racing at the Red Bull Ring once more.
Lane launch once again, going right in the midst of the final corner, setting things up for the side-by-side, though, for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Very important to start off clean through this sector. Turn 3, the first major trouble. Speaking of trouble,
is that Nick McLaughlin in the Ferrari? It is Nick McLaughlin in the Ferrari. This combination that's been so kind to him has already been unkind to him at turn 1. Doesn't look like there's heavy damage to that car, but he has been turned around. Connor Wagner, a little bit of an error through turn 1. He's managed to recover. Sean Dickinson to the inside of Zach Kerr. Turn 3 again, always a pinch point. Looking to see if anybody's getting into each other. Looks like they're all clean and green through turn 3 for the moment, but it's at the back of the field where everything kicks off. Right as I say that, there has been quite the checkup behind Ryan Pucktel, and we do have a parking lot back at turn 3.
That was Darren Rutherford getting turned around there, but for the most part, the race leaders have kept it clean. The top 2 trying to break away. Wagner working with his teammate to try and find a way to close up to 1st and 2nd, to close the near 2nd.
Fonseca and Kerr side by side. Miguel Angel Fonseca, his new pro status. Some drivers might be intimidated by that. He is not at all. He is getting the elbows out. Zach Kerr has gotten back by him, but it's a battle of the Lamborghinis for P10.
Yeah, those Lamborghinis very brave on the brakes. We've seen all throughout the night so far. Some of the drivers already struggling with runoff space. Matthew Thunhorst nearly off the circuit, already still side by side up the road for 3rd.
The Delta Sport drivers swap over. Karl Modoff passes Connor Wagner. I don't know if Connor had a slowdown, but he was quite slow around the front straight. Wagner almost loses it over the sausage curb in turn 1. That's 2 laps in a row that he's gotten very, very wide out there. Wagner could be in danger if he doesn't get that under control. And here comes Elliott White on Daniel Krasowski. It's a little bit too early to go for the dive, but he is challenging the lead. And there goes Boris Ovando on Connor Wagner as well into turn 3.
Ovando had the better run in the first place because of that curbing, but let's take a look. This is the stack up in turn 3. Watch right there, 3 wide, never good. This time it clips the car in. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars run into each other.
That was one of the many black Lamborghinis, so I couldn't tell you who it was who dove it to the inside into turn 3, but it was one of the many black Lamborghinis. Darren Rutherford came out with heavy damage. Mathieu Denis, I believe, had some damage, but he has managed to recover. David Morse was also at the back of that train, so drivers with trouble early on. But I gotta say, for a field that's 55 drivers deep, the fact that those were the only 2 incidents on lap 1 is extremely impressive, Justin.
Downside is, if you're Nick McLaughlin, you're the only driver with the meatball flag. And there goes
Now Gary Brown goes around at turn 7. He got help there. He definitely got help there. And right as I say, we had a clean lap 1. Things are really kicking off here. That's Ted Lowendick off in the background. And I have to imagine that Caleb Lehman might have been involved there with Gary Brown.
I think it was the 07 actually he was side by side with. It almost looked like he was getting the great run. And as a result, the 07 is broken on the side of the racetrack at the back of the field. Still looking at the front of the field, though. Lots of drivers wanting to think about snaking here.
Lots of drivers going snake mode, and indeed that was Nikos Sanadakis, who does have damage in that 07. He brings it down pit lane, and Dominic Olivier, who started 55th, he got involved as well, which is very, very unfortunate. There is the incident. Oh my goodness, and Ted Lowendick in the Dr. Pepper entry. Absolutely nowhere to go for him. It was I guess it was a good save, but it wasn't a good save at the end.
He almost made it until the very last tire of the barrier.
Justin, I think it's really bad luck to come into our booth and do an in-car interview, because Nick McLaughlin and Ted Lowendick, the 2 drivers who did in-car interviews with us last season, they're 53rd and 54th right now.
I mean, it's very difficult to focus when you're at the in-car interview. Remember, we did that as well the couple seasons prior to. And in some cases, sometimes the karma from the broadcast booth usually sticks with you.
That's going to be an interesting 54th place interview with Nick McLaughlin if he does decide to talk to us. We ride on board with the highest cam in all the land. It's Jerome Bertiome. Not in the GT4 series this season. He has moved up a little bit into the GT3s, and he's holding his own. He is an AM here, right behind Ryan Pucktel. That is a very, very high camera. It does get higher and higher with every single broadcast. It's not quite as high as it was when he tricked us a couple of races ago, but that's quite the angle there. And Sean Dickinson, unfortunately, in actual news, has looped it around. The SimCity Lamborghini at turn 1. I think he might have hit the Connor Wagner curb.
Yeah, losing tons of spots because of that mistake. Just no space when rejoin. Almost pulls into traffic. But indeed, those sausage curbs tonight, if you end up hitting them a little bit, disturbs it. I don't know if it was the curbs, though. There's another car behind.
Oh dear.
There was some air.
There was indeed some air there. I believe that was Zach Kerr in the black Lamborghini there. That was not the curb that turned Mr. Dickinson around. He joins the fray of some of these bad luck drivers at the depths of the field. Ted Lowendick, Nick McLaughlin, Nikos Sanadakis, and now, unfortunately, 4 drivers involved down there at the bottom of the field. But up the front of the field is kicking off. In the middle of the field is kicking off as well. Ferrari versus Lamborghini. Caleb Lehman trying to fight here to get by Nathan Deering. It's pro versus am here, but every position does pay points. That's a different thing in the PRL this season. Previously, pros and ams would have the same point split. If you finished first in am, it would be the same amount of points as if you were first in pro. You'd just be competing for your own am championship. But now, if you're Alex Caruso, for example, you're getting 7th place points, and that's going to contribute to your am championship. Turner Schroll would only be getting 19th place points instead of 2nd place points. So having such a spread between the AMs, you've got to think about that in terms of the championship.
Absolutely, and if there are in-season promotions, makes it easier to convert said points you have to think to the championship. Focus, though, for Lehman with those googly eyes. get up to Turner Schroll. Turner Schroll about 15 car lengths up in the sight of those very uneven eyeballs.
Caleb Lehman did listen to us, though. I said last season I wanted to see the Legos on the desk again, and he's done exactly that. The space shuttle is back, and as we know, googly eyes are an extra half a second per lap. Legos are an extra half a second a lap, too, as the Ferrari goes around. There's been another clip of the curb there, and everybody piles in. That was Jeff Carollo, I think, going around. A little bit of damage for the Porsche, the number 68. That is Floyd Kerr. So 2 drivers from the GT3 Fixed Series in their GT3 Sprint debuts running into trouble.
If anything, it looked like 2 separate incidents at the same time there. Again, you get across the curbs, you light up the back tires, it loops around. The second incident, coming from the outside car, actually, that triggered that. It just so happened that you had Blake Zede also spinning in a separate incident.
Indeed, that was Blake Zede. We watched Floyd Kerr. He's the white Porsche. I have a feeling that livery might change later on in the season, but that was one of the Precision Racing Esports Ferraris a little bit out on the track, and he just turns Floyd there.
Not a great night for some of the Precision Racing Esports drivers, unfortunately for the camp. On the bright side, they have drivers up front. But again, taking our look at this turn 3 run, this is where Blake Zede's mistake is. Right across the curves, transition, and they get some help to assist him to the wall.
I think that might have been Thomas Dunn who got a little bit of damage there, so a lot of drivers nursing damage early on. Martin Crisp and Andres Espinosa side by side here. Again, we see the Ferrari versus the Lamborghini, even in an open setup series where the Ferrari, or the Lamborghini rather, can be given a lower downforce setup if straight line speed is really what Martin Crisp wants. He didn't leave Andres Espinosa much room there in the entry to turn 4, though, so any straight line speed in the world, it's been nullified by the contact there.
Not surprised to see a bit of that squeeze. Let's take a look at our replay. 21st position at the time. And right there, the curb.
Yep, that was the number 699. That was Nathan Deering who's gone around in the Race Factory entry. That's a couple of their drivers who have gone around now, and I think Jerome Bertiome, unfortunately, has run into trouble as well. He has fallen to the back of the field, so the used car lot, it is building up here in this 45-minute race. We're about a third of the way through. Let's see what happened to Jerome here. Was it Floyd Kerr again? Oh, I see. Jerome Bertiome was actually the driver who was off the road. Just clipped the sausage a little bit, got the car out of shape, and he takes Floyd Kerr with him.
In turn, picking up a fair bit of damage, it looks like, as a result of that. But already in the first 10 minutes, a very wild race. Here comes the fight for second. That number 2 car's been flying.
Boris Ovando fighting through the field, gets by Elliott White, and he's broken up the Precision Racing Esports 1-2. Carl Modoff as well. Look at him in P4. Can he knock Elliott White off the podium entirely? He's not going to go for it into turn 4. He's going to stay in line. I have to wonder, Justin, we talked about this a lot last season with the fuel masters of Trepanier and Campbell. In the first stages of these races, everybody was always trying to save a little bit of fuel wherever they can. Is that what our 2 Delta Sport drivers are doing right now? They're running in the train. They're not really going aggressive. Are they just trying to save those extra couple of tenths of fuel because they know they can make it up in the pits? I
think absolutely. If you feel like you have a better opportunity by saving fuel and staying in the draft, go ahead. If the opportunity presents itself for a pass, try it. But at this point, it seems like the team strategies work together as a unit, try and stay as close together as possible, remain within the tow of these lead group drivers, and save the gas in some of these corners. Those few tenths, even that 1 second possibly in the pit lane of itself, might be the difference between winning and losing, as we've seen for some of the battles in the fixed race.
Carl Modoff, a 23-time winner in the PRL. It's been a few seasons since we last saw him in GT3 competition, but it is quite the return. We were really looking forward to this return. The second I saw Carl Modoff signed up, I was very, very excited. I knew he was going to be quite the competitor, and Elliott White knows that Carl is quite the competitor. It's pretty scary when you've got that bright red Delta Sport entry of Carl Modoff behind you, because you know you are not getting rid of him.
Yeah, he is not going to give up here. He knows it's important to maintain the draft. Let's take a look at our replay. That downtown Brown.
Unfortunately, he is going downtown again. That is indeed downtown Gary Brown in the GT3 Sprint Series. Had such a great run in the Fixed Series last season as well. Finished the season at Rudskogen in the final race of the season. Got his first win. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to replicate that in the AM class in this race tonight, but it's the first race of the season. Everybody's always got those jitters. If there's any place to get the mistakes out of the way, it's going to be the first race of the season.
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't want to be on the back foot for the championship, right? So you need to be able to catch back up, or rather, start off well and be able to score points consistently. You don't want to depend on the drop, or better yet, have to claw your way back from a slow start and hope for a recovery to be able to get in the championship mix.
Look at the separation these top 6 have pulled. These top 6 pros of Krasowski, Ovando, White, Modoff, Wagner, and Patrick Pelchat, who we haven't really said much about. They've pulled about 2.5 seconds over the so-called AM Alex Caruso, but there goes Carl Modoff on Elliott White. A fairly easy move, a little bit of a bobble from Elliott White in turn 1. Modoff is back on the podium, but all of these top 6 are pulling away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, so far, these drivers very consistent on the tempo. Some of the best drivers in the entire field as a whole tonight. Going to be very difficult all season, I think, to be able to battle with them. Some solid speed, though, as we've seen throughout the night, especially with the return we've seen for Modoff. Also these days is a driving instructor with Speed Vegas.
That's got to be a pretty good job being a driving instructor at Speed Vegas. I know there's a lot of clients sometimes who take those cars out and they're like, I'm a racing driver. I'm going to push this thing. But, you know, Carl Modoff has to do the big job of holding them back, of not letting them destroy those cars.
Yeah, it is a pretty tricky job to be able to teach respective drivers, and especially with the types of race cars. Absolutely, you need to be able to find that balance as a driver. And in many cases, you drive a fast car, you're going to need training to run the fast car.
Caruso, I'm watching him again in the background, a little bit wide through the final corner. Zach Kerr is trying to catch up with him, but that is quite the stopper there. About 3 seconds now behind Patrick Pelchat. We're nearing the halfway point in the race. About 2 or 3 more laps will be the hard halfway mark, and we do have to start thinking about that pit stop. There will once again be a green flag pit stop here. Well, of course it's a green flag pit stop. There's no cautions, but there could be the possibility of a 2-tire change. That was theorized. We didn't see it in the fixed race, but this race is 10 minutes longer. I do wonder if a tire change may be used by one of these drivers. Miguel Angel Fonseca holds off the challenge for Martin Crisp in the meantime, but I do wonder, is 2 tires going to be worth it?
Honestly, we didn't see too many of the drivers who took the 2 tires, Joey, be able to make up the 5-second difference. So it's more so in terms of comfortability, if anything, on 2 tires after only about 20-30 minutes of racing.
A little bit deep in turn 4 for Miguel Fonseca. I almost wonder if he has a little bit of a slowdown, because that was quite the slow exit. He does not, though, and he does fight back on Martin Crisp. He's going to hold on to P10. And I just got to say, Justin, I'm very happy that Miguel Angel Fonseca has given us a new livery this season. I loved his previous livery, but this is everything that livery had, and it's got some insanely bright colors. We can't miss them.
I think it's cyberpunk themed in terms of the color palette, which always, with that video game series, has the bright colors, has the different designs that try and pop out at you, like we're seeing across that race car.
Got series organizer, Kenny Rodriguez in the chat. Not with us in this series this season, unfortunately, but he's saying that tire change might be detrimental with these short races. So I'll listen to him. I'll listen to you. We'll see if my Ted Lowendick insider knowledge ends up being wrong. We'll see. It's an alternate strategy. It was used to the MX-5s last season, but like you said, it takes a lot of time to change the tires in this car.
But that's an MX-5.
Yep.
This is a different car entirely. And also, the driver you're mentioning is in 52nd.
That's very true. Justin, you're spitting daggers tonight.
Well, yeah, so far, though, we'll say, been impressive, some of the drives. For those wondering, Dominic Olivier is up to 30th position and is trying to catch up to trains such as this one. So it's been a heavy climb for some of these drivers tonight.
Dominic saw what Colin McKenzie did in the fixed race a little bit earlier, and he said, you know what? I'm going to do even better than that. That says he's up 7 spots. That is an understatement. I believe he's up 30 spots now in P26 overall right now. He's got a lot of work to do here Still, I don't think a P15 is out of the conversation for Dominic Oliveira. I think that might be his limit. I think he might be able to get in the top 15.
26 overall, or 26 in class, I think you were saying 29th overall on the racetrack. But you're right in terms of the tempo, absolutely, in terms of how he's running. Oh, and something's happened up at the front.
Modoff. Carl Modoff is around at turn 1. The curb that his teammate was clipping earlier, I think Carl may have just curbed and looped it around again. We'll see if he did get some help from one of the drivers behind, or if indeed he has just clipped the mighty, mighty sausage. Here he comes into turn 1, and there it is.
Just the tail end. Yeah, and was even getting it loose before then. It's like Modoff very wounded, and that car's crabbing a bit.
Much awaited return to the PRL. Not going to end the way Carl Modoff wanted. A little bit of drama through the second to last corner as well. That's the 39. And the BMW and a few others getting involved. The number 6, I think that might have been Thomas Dunn. Chase Brown came into the pits as well. Mathieu Denis has come into the pits as well. Lots of trouble on pit entry. We saw trouble on pit entry in the previous race. And with something like 50 drivers still running out there, it might happen again.
Might happen again, but here's the thing. Guess who's closing up? Avandi being able to eat up that about 1 second gap that the 37 had built up. And now this has essentially become a 5-car drafting train.
Let's see, does Boris want to go for the lead, or does he want to hang back behind Krasowski and save a little bit of fuel? We'll see the difference here under braking into turn 1. Is he lifting a little bit? I don't think he is. I think he's full beans. I just don't know if that Lamborghini is going to have the straight line speed to pass another Lamborghini of Daniel Krasowski. They seem pretty evenly matched. He's going to get a run here up the hill into turn 3. He's going to be about 2/10 back into turn 3. I don't think Boris is quite close enough to go for the dive, but he is keeping Daniel Krasowski under quite the pressure, as is everybody else in the top 5. You can put a blanket over the entire top 5 here.
Bondo, there you showed a little bit of his hand a little bit earlier on the braking mark by about 50, 100 feet. Watch it right there. A little bit earlier on the brakes. A little bit different braking technique, it appears, as well compared to Krasowski currently. Might be thinking it might be bigger if I can get this in the pit stop window. Maybe take that couple tenths, try and jump the 37.
A few other drivers came down pit road that last time around. Sean McInnes was in, John Barry was in, and Romain Faux were all in from the deeper stages of the field. So I think some drivers in the back are seeing that there is open track for them to occupy, and they're deciding to come in. But for these drivers in the lead, the main reason they can't really come in here is because there is traffic all the way down the field, down to about a minute behind in 40 seconds. There's almost no open gaps on the field. If these guys pit right now, they're basically guaranteed to end up in traffic. So I think they're just extending it for as long as possible.
Well, that's usually the strategy, right? Because that means a much shorter time in the pit lane compared to splitting it down the middle, where you're essentially going to have a longer time because you have to have more fuel on board. So it can be very costly by electing to go even earlier. In some cases, you need to be able to stretch it further on out to be able to save potentially up to 3-4 seconds in the lane at minimum.
By the way, Dominic Olivier is up 3 more spots in class already and 4 more spots overall. So his charge forward through the field, it's heating up. It's getting pretty insane. I'm sure he's not going to be happy if he ends up finishing this race P18, but like I said with Colin McKenzie, if you have a bad qualifying like that, the only thing he can really do is try and recover, and he is certainly doing so. Oh, and there's Martin Crisp getting bullied out of the way by Nathan Bartley as they both move their way up into the top 10. Martin Crisp again has been dropped from the top 10. I think there was another spin in the background as well. Turn 4 is biting a ton of these guys.
Yeah, that's been intriguing with how some of the braking marks have been. I think that's because just the way the camera is on the exit. Take a look.
Ethan Osowski just loses it.
Yeah, just too much speed, it seemed, in the midst of the corner. Looped it around off to the sand. Has to wait for his turn to come back on the track.
Again, here the top 5 train has not broken up. Nobody's really shown any signs of wanting to make the move necessarily, but there is going to be some drama up ahead. There's some lapped cars coming up already. Lap traffic will be in the conversation. That's Mathieu Denis, who has pitted, Romain Faux as well. They've made their pit stops already, so they don't really have any reason to let the leaders by. They're on a different strategy, but I do have to imagine that they're not going to play too much of a role here. Lap traffic generally pretty well behaved in the PRL, but those are 2 new names. So if you're Daniel Krasowski right now, you don't necessarily know what to expect.
Yeah, right now you have to be able to expect the potentially unexpected. Hope the traffic is predictable and very cordial. It was cordial in the fixed race. How different will that be now for some of these drivers? It's going to be a big question. Denise, keep in mind, 45th position on the racetrack after this pit stop, a 10-second stop. So trying to shorten it up on the fuel.
Greg Conaway is in on this lap, so we're starting to see some pit stops deeper into the head of the field. It's not just the drivers at the back of the field who have a little bit of damage. Let's see, do any of these 5 elect to bring it in on this lap to stay out of this lap traffic? I would assume not. They're all going to stay out, but the lap driver of Mathieu Denis is going to be in the conversation here. He is definitely holding up the train here through the final corner. I think he's going to pull to the inside here down the front straight. He will stay out of the way. That was a little bit of drama for Krasowski. That did check him up quite a bit. That might be what Boris Ovando needs here. He's not going to peek to the inside again, though. Oh my goodness. He's trying to rejoin the train is Mathieu Denis in front of Connor Wagner. And I don't think that was a very smart move because Connor Wagner is in the runoff in turn 1.
Way off the racetrack, my goodness. What was the lap traffic thinking there?
I'm curious as to what happened to Connor Wagner. He gets hit, and then... he gets hit again. He gets hit again, and the car doesn't steer.
Yeah, this was like moving under braking. You see, he's starting to hit the brakes, moves right in front of the Delta Sport car, hits the Armco, and bounces into Wagner's right rear tire.
Connor Wagner is going to be very, very angry right now. I think that's the least I can say about that. And yeah, the stewards, Arnaud Genet, will definitely be looking at that incident, and that will not come too kindly to the driver of the number 517 there, or the number 617 rather. Also, in terms of penalties, unfortunately for Jeff Carollo, he has been disqualified from the race for incident points. Bad luck for him, but God, it hurts to look at for Connor Wagner. He was having a great race, and he gets taken out by a lap car.
Yeah, way off the circuit from them in a huge, huge bad break there. Meanwhile, we look at this car
again.
This time alongside a Delta Sport car.
Yeah, alongside Karl Modov, who was trying to recover, and Ethan Osowski in turn 4. I think he probably wishes that corner wasn't on the Red Bull ring about now. And in the meantime, as well, Boris Ovando has taken the lead. He has jumped Daniel Krasowski, rather. He's finally said, you know what, I'm not waiting up anymore. I'm taking the lead.
Looking like he's just pressed the go button. Absolutely was the previous time by, right after that incident, I think, actually. So able to just take advantage of the traffic situation. Krasowski might now be put on the back foot here and might have to start thinking about, is it time to come in soon and trying the undercut to see if there's a chance to jump him.
15 minutes to go here. He's found his teammate Elliott White. Are the 2 Precision Racing esports drivers going to organize something here? Is there a team strategy that everybody's trying to follow? That is the question. And as well, Pat Pelchat in P4, also a Precision Racing esports driver. So PRE 2-3-4 at the moment, but they're going to want that lead back. Miguel Angel Fonseca fighting with another PRE driver in Nathan Bartley, who's having a pretty great race. But Miguel, he's doing Miguel Angel Fonseca things and just driving through the field.
Did lose a spot to Bartley last time around, but you're right, just maintaining a solid rhythm. Not as quick as the leader per se right now, but he has been in the ballpark of those respective leaders most of the time around. So he's just been avoiding trouble, just running his race, letting it come to him.
Still no takers on pit lane at the head of the field. Connor Wagner has pitted. That's understandable, though, because he does have heavy damage from the Denis incident. We ride on board with Martin Crisp, who has now been promoted to the top 10 because of the elimination of Karl Modov and Connor Wagner. He's in the draft of Miguel Angel Fonseca here. SimCity Racing versus Miguel Angel Fonseca. Which setup is better? Seems like they're pretty dead equal, because Martin Crisp made up basically nothing on the straight there.
Yeah, if anything, they're draft locked at the moment. In fact, more traffic. There is Ted Lowendick trying to let them go. So there goes the opportunity potentially to try and pull on to the right there for a moment defensively.
After all the chaos of the start of the race and a little bit of drama in the mid stage of the race, this tends to be the calm period of the race before the pit cycle comes around. Everybody's just riding in line. They're saving a little bit of fuel when they're not getting taken out by lapped cars. And I think once the pit cycle rolls around, once we finally get everybody back in, it's going to be all out.
Absolutely. I will say this just a few seconds up the road from this group. Alex Caruso, we haven't mentioned him enough with this pit window opening up right now for Elliott White. Caruso's still in the top 6, now about to join the top 5 with White jumping in.
It's been a very, very impressive run for Alex Caruso, and is it a fluke? Will he be promoted to pro? The coming weeks will tell us that, but indeed, Elliott White is in. No organization with his teammates. Krasowski stays out, Pelchat stays out, and basically every other Precision Racing Esports driver has stayed out as well. Noah Anderson is in from about P13. And keep that number in your mind for Elliott White, by the way. 8.3 seconds in the box. Remember, in the fixed race, we were seeing 11, 12-second stops. The fuel saving in these in these sprint setups, rather, these drivers are saving quite a bit.
Very aggressive to try and see if he can jump in front of this driver. Bonto, right now 129.8. Krasowski rather, still keeping in the same ballpark of him tempo-wise, with him maintaining the draft.
Boris Ovando, a one-time winner in the PRL, so he does have race-winning experience, but he wants to add to that total. He's back in the series, he's back in the saddle in the GT3s, and he is in the popcorn position right now. He clearly had the pace to pass Krasowski. Has Krasowski been saving something, though, as they navigate through the second to last corner this time? Is anybody going to come in? No, nobody's going to come in this time. It was an early stop for Elliott White, and I wonder, they're going to be like 1 or 2 extra laps for Ovando and Krasowski here, and is this lap traffic going to hold them up?
Yeah, that, I think, is the bigger question in terms of the traffic. Blake Ziti is that car up the road from him. Here's the issue with Blake Ziti. You see him in the bottom right corner.
There's no rear wing.
Yeah, so that car's gonna, if you reach him in the corner, good luck.
It's fast in a straight line, though. It's fast in a straight line.
I'm surprised Ziti's still running without a wing.
So am I, but it looks like a fresh off the factory lot Ferrari. I guess Blake Ziti's doing some promotion. Maybe you see that at a Long Island Ferrari dealership, but you're exactly right. This car is going to be a little bit of a cork, a little bit of a brick in any corners here. So hopefully Blake Ziti doesn't get caught by the leaders in the wrong spot here.
I mean, with the amount of drivers from the mid-pack that are on the pylon just outside the top 18 coming in right now, that might be enough even to force them. With 10 minutes to go, it's going to be tight on the fuel. Remember, there is a little more fuel flexibility in the tank compared to what we see in fixed by about an extra 5-10% in the tank. But it's going to be tight.
A lot of drivers in. Olivier, Jennifer McDonald, Hilton, Espinoza, Deering, Giacchetti. A lot of drivers in on that last lap. Will our leaders be in? Yes, they will. Boris Ovando is in. Krasowski's going to follow him in. Pelchat's going to follow them in as well. Getting it slowed down in the pit lane here is always tough. They all get it slowed down. Kerr is going to be in. Caruso's going to be in. I think we've reached the hard limit of the fuel tank, and now it's a question of who's saved more.
There's going to be also very bold here is another question you can ask. Already onto the marks for both those respective drivers as well as the rest of the pack here.
There goes Ovando, 8.8 seconds. Krasowski, a very, very long stop. Has he forgotten to uncheck the tires? I think he may have done that. 16, 17, 18 seconds. The driver who led the first half of this race, 21 seconds in the box. That's going to drop him to 6th.
He just threw it away. Simple as that. Remember, the time takes a long amount of time, and that looks like he may have taken multiple tires. A narrow 5 seconds longer than the drivers who were up on the Jackson fixed.
That is going to hurt for Daniel Krasowski, and it's P6, could be P5, so there is still a recovery to make. But I imagine he's going to be fighting with Ovando, with Elliott White, with Modoff, with Wagner for the whole rest of the season, and you do not want to have a P6 on the board as your first result of the season if you're a pro fighting for the championship.
Absolutely here, but this battle is going to be intriguing to say the least. Elliott White's in a good spot. Hearing though, Espinoza, 40-second penalty, unsafe pit entry. And Olivier's got a black as well.
Oh dear. He's 21st. His drive through the field has been so impressive, but he has indeed found himself a black flag. Nathan Bartley is going to find himself in P6 in class, P7 overall. Advanced one spot after the run through pit lane. Miguel Angel Fonseca had a slower run through pit lane. He's fallen out of the top 10 across the pit cycle. But Nathan Bartley's been a big winner, and he's about to be an even bigger winner because he's going for the move on his teammate Krasowski.
Yeah, it just seems like there is some struggling for Krasowski from the pit lane with those difference on tires. Just seems like with that model, just going to take a few laps to get him back up the temperature. By the way, for insult to injury, Espinosa just went backwards on the racetrack.
Oh dear. Not a good day for Andres Espinosa, unfortunately, but it's been a very, very good day for... Well, it's been a good day for Precision Racing Esports, and it's been a bad day for Precision Racing Esports. They've still got one driver in the fight for the win, but all of their other bullets have kind of been eliminated here. Bartley and Krasowski, they're going to be fighting for P6 at best. Hel Shah has fallen out of the fight for the top 3. Elliott White is their only hope here. We ride on board now with Raymond Yip. Haven't said his name much tonight. He's just been having a cool, calm, and collected night in P10. He is all over the back of Noah Anderson again, who topped practice. I wonder if he just got a good draft, though, or got a low fuel run in or something, because he's still been good. He's been running in the top 10. Hasn't quite had the race-leading speed, though.
Yeah, if anything, he got bullied around off the start. Good recovery to bounce back since then. And, yep, that's John Barry in the middle of the racetrack. Still put him in a good spot for a move.
But that little checkup has actually allowed Miguel Fonseca, I think, to get around the outside there. They're going to be side-by-side into turn 7 here. It's tough to go side-by-side through there. Miguel leaves Raymond Yip all the room in the world, but they're still side-by-side. Coming into turn 9, Lamborghini versus Audi. These cars are known for understeer. Miguel's hoping that he has no understeer through the final corner because he has a car that was outside and he's got oversteer instead. Miguel Angel Fonseca goes around. Lafleur behind him goes around with a little bit of target fixation. It's a smoke show through the second to last corner.
Moldoff able to take advantage and gain 2 spots in 1. So the Bad Bunny has a bad corner.
Look at that crumple on the head of Moldoff's car. This is the drive of a champion. I remember I did say, you don't want to start the season if you're fighting for the championship with a P6, with a P10. But when you do have damage like that, when you are recovering, it is all about trying to recover to the best position possible. And even with that damage, Moldoff is doing exactly that.
Well, he has to be able to keep on chugging along, right? Try and pick off drivers one by one. Going to take a little bit of skill, of course, to get up to Raymond Yip. Nobody's got it here. Looking at the 20, some of the art battles here. 13th and AM, the Italian, up 8.
Very, very impressive drive for him. He started second to last. He was the only driver ahead of Mr. Dominic Olivier and good old Giambattista Giacchetti, I guess fiddling with his name. I gotta say GG.
By the way, Dominic Olivier disqualified for incident points. Let's take a look at the VR. The leaders just passed him. So he has to keep in mind that some of these drivers are on the lead lap. Now they're 3 wide.
Crazy stuff here as everybody with varying levels of lapness move their way through Giambattista Giacchetti. No harm, no foul there. Everybody made it through. But that was a scary moment for the SRT Esport driver of Patrick Cowgill and the blue chip Porsche as well. That's David Morse, by the way. That is not an SRT Esport Ferrari. That is a Ferrari that's painted exactly the same as an SRT Esport Ferrari, except it's driven by David Morse.
That was for position in their respective class, by the way, so you can understand the aggressiveness. It is still an SRT car. It's SRT Esport Black.
You are right. I think that's a Patrick Cowgill problem. I think Patrick Cowgill signed up as SRT Esport, and David Morse signed up as the full name Speedworks Racing Team. So they gotta do some organization over there. I'm gonna go yell at Patrick Cowgill. He's confusing me.
Well, anywho, keep in mind the race lead is very tight in the midst of this traffic. Only 3/10 separating them. It had stretched out at first because of traffic, but White right now has a chance. He closed up 6/10 last time. For the past few laps, though, the advantage has been to the car in front.
Boris Ovando versus Elliott White. That is the battle to kick off season 1 of 2023 here, and it is very close. You're not going to be seeing any Boris Ovando things where he was just hanging back into the braking zone from Elliott White. Elliott White is full attack. There's 3 laps to go. He knows there's only 3 laps to go. When the opportunities for the move come for him, he's going to go for him. He's in the draft here, up the back straight or the left straight or whatever you want to call it. He is in the draft either way. He's down below 1/10. Ovando's going to block to the inside. Not enough, though. White peeks to the inside. He peeks to the outside. He's not able to go for the move into turn 3.
Plenty of the time, Elliott White has to be aggressive here, but you don't want to end up making it to where you show your hand too early and give the upper advantage to Ovando, and in turn lose your chances to be able to go for it one more time.
Boris Ovando, a 1-time winner in the PRL. Elliott White, a 3-time winner in the PRL. And they're both showing their names here. We said there was a vacuum at the top of the sheets with Vincent Trepanier and Sean Campbell out after last season. That hole has been occupied by some of the best GT3 drivers on iRacing. And this is the kind of show we're going to be seeing in every single race this season on Tuesday nights. And this one isn't over. There's still 2 laps to go at the line. White is all over the back of Ovando. It's just the question of when is he going to get the chance to go for it again.
It's going to take us some time. How about now?
There it is. Ovando's around. White has to check up. Remarkably, he doesn't get into him. Incredible braking skills there for Elliott White. But Boris Ovando goes around, and I think he might have just reached the instant limit because he's decided to come down pit lane.
Yes, he has. Ovando, unbelievable, loops it around, and with that situation with the 2X, has put himself over the limit. It's Elliott White's race to lose now.
There he goes. You could see him losing it already into turn 9, and at that point, when the car starts to go around, there's no saving it.
Very lucky to not get clobbered there, and you see Ovando sitting in that pit stall after that situation. Does Elliott White have enough fuel? Better yet, can Caruso now find himself on the podium?
Caruso could find himself on the podium if he can get by Zach Kerr. Krasowski's been promoted into the top 6 as well. He could have a shot at the top 5. There's all sorts of positions that are still up for grabs here. We ride on board now with Alex Caruso in the head Race Factory Lamborghini. I can't really overstate what a show it's been for him, and he very well could get the podium because he's all over the back of his fellow Lamborghini and teammate of Zach Kerr.
Yeah, Caruso has been flying half a second gain last time. So Kerr's on the back foot here entering the final minute or so of this race. Nerves have to be hopped up a little bit. Some of the teammate banter may be interesting after this one, after Caruso's welcome.
There's been a whole carousel of black flags. Of course, Ovando, Sean Carmody's had a black flag. Jerome Bertioma's had a black flag. Downtown Gary Brown. Ted Lowenick's been disqualified. Andres Espinosa's been disqualified. It's all kicking off at the back of the field. But up at the front of the field, Elliott White has taken the white flag. He's got a 2.5 second lead over his teammate Pat Pelshaw. He can basically cruise home now. All of his competitors have eliminated themselves or been eliminated. He's got a safe run to the finish.
Here's the thing about that interval. It was 5 seconds a few moments ago. With that checkup, Pelshaw chipped it down under 3 seconds. Does White run it again? Is the question. Here's the question, too.
Whoa.
How does the traffic factor? Oh, my goodness.
I don't think Caruso was expecting that lap Porsche to be on the outside there. Bartley and Krasowski side by side. Precision Racing Esports teammates. Clearly no team orders between these two. Bartley hangs tough around the inside of Krasowski, and Krasowski can't hang it around the outside under braking into turn 4. Krasowski sends it to the inside, and his teammate, that was just a little bit of a spook there. I don't think that was an actual intention at a dive, but the teammates are getting very, very close here.
Little too close. Krasowski wants this spot and is willing
way
to
too
move
close.
He moves his teammate.
That was a dive to the inside. I don't know if that's going to be too well received in Nathan Bartley's camp. Martin Crisp as well takes the spot from Bartley. So the two Precision Racing Esports drivers, and there goes Crisp and Bartley both around. All, I think, inadvertently caused by that dive. But up front for Precision Racing Esports, Elliott White survives, Elliott White wins. He's got his 4th win in PRL competition. Pelshah 2nd, Kerr 3rd, and Alex Caruso, an AM driver classified before the season, finishes P4. We'll have to see later on in the season in the coming races if that does stay true, because if it does, he will probably be promoted to pro. 2nd place in AM was Turner Schroll, a little bit deeper in the order, and Cedric Nevu, his first race in the PRL, brings it home in P3 in AM. But oh my goodness, here we go again.
Yeah, you can see that coming with the squeeze all the way to the AstroTurf. Give and take there's been very small and very little.
And there's still drivers trying to finish here. That is the spread of the field here. There's a little bit of trouble in the background there. Somebody was going spinning, but I believe this is Turner Schroll potentially coming to the line. It's one of the black Lamborghinis. More trouble for more Lamborghinis. Cedric Nevu, who was on the podium, he's lost the podium through the second to last corner. Cedric Nevu for Bad Bunny Racing Team is going to finish P5 in AM, and the podium goes to Christopher Rines.
Unbelievable to say the very least. Bad Bunny indeed. He did it on his own.
Oh dear, but absolute craziness here. I don't even know what to talk about first, but I guess first and foremost, Elliott White, your victor after surviving all the calamity. Pat Pelshah, just, completely anonymous, ran his own race, finished in a very, very strong 2nd. Somehow that's what you need to do. Zach Kerr finishes P3, Alex Caruso P4, Krasowski finishes P5 after a little bit of bullying of his teammate. Noah Anderson finishes in P6, Raymond Yip P7, Martin Crisp P8 after a spin in the last lap, and Carl Modoff finishes P9 on his recovery. Nathan Bartley also recovers from that spin to finish P10. Matthew Thunhorst for Forge Racing, P11. Miguel Angel Fonseca P12, Caleb Lehman, Josh Spears, and Turner Schroll the AM ran out the top 15. Danny Lafleur had a spin, still finished P16. Ryan Pucktel, P17. Chase Brown, P18. Jennifer McDonald, P19. And Ethan Osowski, 2 spins to 20th. Gonzalo Cortez, P21. Sean Dickinson had a little bit of trouble, P22. Christopher Rines on the podium in AM ahead of Kwok Nin. Vicente Sepulveda from the back of the field to 25th. Matt Hilton, Cedric Nevu, Nathan Deering, and former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan round out the group of AMs there. Romaf Foe as well, P30. Greg Conaway was P31. Mendonca, Floyd Kerr, and Sean Carmody rounded out the drivers on the lead lap. Thomas Dunn went a lap down. Lamont, Morse, Giacchetti, Downtown Gary Brown, Darren Rutherford, and a few others went 1 lap down. Mathieu Denis going to be in the ire of the stewards after today, and Boris Angel Ovando, after leading the race, 1 spin, reached the incident limit, went 1 lap down, finished 42nd. John Barry was 43rd, and then we get into the used car lot. Sean McGinnis was 44th. Jerome Bertiome got disqualified. Espinoza, Ziti, Olivier, McLaughlin, John Antonino, Ted Lowendick, Connor Wagner, Jeff Carollo, Nico Sanadakis, and Nicholas Larson never got off the line in 55th. But oh my goodness, what an insane race. And I guess we get to talk to the drivers now. Elliott White, I'm at a loss for words. That was an absolutely insane race, but you were the last driver standing. How in the world did you survive that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess a little bit of luck. I mean, I was playing it pretty safe because I really didn't know what setup I wanted to run going into the race, and I kept flip-flopping, and ultimately I went with what I thought was, I guess, the safer option. But I didn't really expect to have pace, so I think I just got pretty lucky, to be honest, with all the calamity.
I do want to talk about the car choice though, because it's the main topic of conversation here with all the updates to the GT3s after the previous update. A lot of talk about the Ferrari, a lot of talk about the Lamborghini, a lot of talk about the Audi. Why is the Audi your pick?
It's purely just a feel. I mean, I enjoyed it before the update, and I hadn't gotten to drive it for a while because it hadn't really been strong, and I just thought, well, fun league, I might as well just drive what I want to drive, and so I just went with the Audi. There was not really much to the choice other than that.
You said this was a little bit of luck, but I'm gonna oversell that a little bit. I'm gonna say you will be one of our championship competitors. We'll have you in this series. I believe we'll have you in the Xfinity series as well. What are you looking most forward to in the coming 9 weeks?
Oh man, I mean, this was a fun race. I mean, it was a fun race, a lot of strong people, so I'm looking forward to that. Xfinity as well. I really love the schedule on that side. I think I'm gonna have to do a decent amount of work to maintain pace in these GT3 cars, though. I mean, I did a decent amount of practice for this, so I think I'll have to continue with that going forward.
Well, congrats on the win tonight, and we wish you good luck in your 2 campaigns.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to shout out a couple of our partners at PRL, Advanced Sim Racing, RaceBox, Butt Kicker, Mecha Simware. I know they're a relatively new addition. Race Labs, they've been around for a while, as well as Ninja Trader, and as well as VCO, and of course you guys at RaceSpot. You know, it's nice to have you on. I haven't done the last few series, but I've been wanting to come back since I saw you join.
Company man, good stuff. Congrats again on the win. Elliot White, your first victor of the GT3 Sprint Series. We got P2 to talk to as well. Pat Pelshaz with Justin.
Yes, indeed. You quietly made your way up to second step of the podium tonight, partly with the attrition, partly with the strategy. Talk us through your night.
Yeah, it was one hell of a race. Haven't been racing for a while now, so recently got back to sim racing and pretty happy with the results.
Of course, the new update, a major talking point, especially with Ferrari. What was the strategy and turn like with the Ferrari, knowing the straight line speed was the positive for many coming in?
Honestly, I didn't have much running with the Ferrari. I made the last minute change. I was supposed to run with the Porsche and decided to switch to the Ferrari 2 hours before the race. So it felt really good. The car was good on entry, good on exit, pretty balanced overall. So yeah, it was a decent race. The car felt really well.
So a very strong start to the season for the team after some of the errors fellow teammates had some struggles of their own. But your thoughts on the next time out for Monza, where speed is big?
Yeah, I think recently joined the team, and I think we have a good energy. Everyone's working together. We're trying to get the best out of each other, working on the set and everything. So, yeah, I think we're looking towards a good season and looking for good results all the way to the end.
Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the podium.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank our partners, Advanced Sim Racing, Racebox, Butt Kicker, Mecha Sim Hardware, Race Lab, Ninja Trader, VCO, and RaceSpot for the coverage of this race.
Thank you very much. By the way, Elliot also said those thank yous. Very well appreciated either way.
Thank you.
Patrick Pelchak finishing up in second, Joey.
We got P3 here with a Zach Kerr. After all the calamity on the last lap for Delta Sport, picked up the pieces, and you've got a podium to kick off the season.
Yeah, great having a podium in the first round of the series. Knowing this competition, it was going to be a very tough race, which it was mainly a battle of surviving, if anything.
So coming into this series with, of course, Delta Sport, lots of PRL experience, lots of sim racing experience as a whole. What's it been like being teamed up with Wagner and Modoff?
It's been good. They've given good help and feedback if I needed it, and I feel like we can work forward and do very well this season.
9 more tracks to go. I guess the headliner is Manicourt, the new track. Which round are you looking most forward to?
Oh, it'd be interesting Monza next weekend, being a very tight racetrack, very close racing with the draft and everything. So it'd be interesting to see how that fares out.
Of course, the Lamborghini and the Ferrari at home at Monza. They've got to have an extra speed boost there because they're Italian.
Yeah, the Ferrari is a lot quicker in a straight line around here, but we'll see around Monza. Might not be as quick.
We will see the straight line speed comparison next week, but congrats again on the podium. First race of the season, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Zach Kerr, P3 and P4 overall, but P1 in AM. Alex Caruso's with Justin.
Yes,
how's it going?
It's going good. It went really good for you tonight. An AM victory by a very wide margin. First of all, how?
Well, I had a lot of experience running with the pros last season, so that was a good introduction to running towards the front of the group here. Didn't have the best start to my last season, but hoping to get this one started off a little bit better.
Funnily enough, the car in front of you has the exact same paint scheme. Zach Kerr, of course, scoring points with Delta Sport. How have you benefited from that, if you have?
Yeah, Zach and I worked together on the setups for the cars this week, and we raced together a lot, so it was great picking up tips from him. He definitely helps me get faster here, so big shout out to Zach and the rest of the Delta Sport crew. I couldn't have done it without them.
Well, with the format, you have a very sizable margin now in the points entering Monza. Your thoughts on Monza?
Yeah, just looking to avoid that big turn 1 collision. Hopefully stay safe there for the first few laps and carry on to another good result.
Thank you very much for the time.
Absolutely.
Alex Caruso, the AM winner by a very wide margin. His teammate finished behind him in the AM class, but overall wise, it was a difference of about 11, 12 spots, Jolie.
Indeed it was. Turner Schroll is here with us. Well, Turner, I guess the first question I'm going to ask you is, your teammate finished 4th overall, but first in AM. Do you think this might become first for you in AM if he gets promoted?
Possibly. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm, happy for him either way. I mean, our team has really worked together pretty hard over the off season, come together and focused on what we wanted to accomplish here. And I think coming out of the box, all of our drivers from the Delta Sport down to the Race Factory teams have just come out to play. So, excited whatever happens, and excited for the rest of the season.
Tell us about some of the prep that's gone into that, because you guys have quite the wide spread. You got quite a few drivers, Lamborghinis, Audis, Porsches. What's the preparation been like?
Yeah, so we've been most of us have been working together for a number of years and have slowly drifted our way over here to Delta Sport, and obviously with Race Factory as well. And it's just been a grind. Obviously, last season was really good for some of us, and we added to that with some other really quality drivers. So just grinding it out and trying to build some setups, give some feedback from the top down, and obviously everyone is clearly benefiting from that.
Certainly reap the benefits today. P3, P4 overall. So good stuff for Delta Sport and for Race Factory. Congrats on your 2nd in class, and we'll see you in the coming weeks.
Yeah, thanks guys for all you do, and obviously just want to say shout out to our sponsors over there at Race Factory, Rep, and obviously the head team there at Delta Sport. So appreciate it, guys. See you next week.
We'll indeed see Mr. Turner Schroll next week, but we got one more driver to talk to. I'll give him one question just for the heck of it. Ted Lowendick, P51. Should we talk to you in the booth here, or should we kick you out?
Just kick me out. This is new.
Okay, we'll kick Ted Lowendick out. Best interview ever. Justin, that's the only question you got to ask Ted. But it's the end of the night. My voice is slowly recovering after covering 105 cars tonight. That was insane.
It was insane, especially how things turned out in this race. Absolutely. When you have the driver who is one of the quickest throughout the pack spin it out, loop around in the race lead, couple laps to go. What can you say? Ovando absolutely set things up on a silver platter and threw it all away. Elliott Wayne in a great spot to take advantage. In turn, his strategy paid off by taking 3 seconds less gas than most of his competitors.
Chaos and calamity all night long, but it started with Michael Terrafino getting a win. Old Elliott White returns to the winner's circle in the PRL, and Alex Caruso may or may not keep that win if he gets promoted to pro. But for now, he is a winner. Next week we go, or not next week, rather, in 2 weeks' time, after a break for the holiday season, we go to Monza. We go to Italy for all of that high-speed action. So we hope you'll join us then. We hope you'll join us for all 5 nights of PRL action. They're a little bit separated this season because we did have to start the GT3s 1 week early, but there will be GR86s and GT4s on Mondays, this GT3 doubleheader on Tuesdays, Trucks and Xfinity on Wednesdays, F3 and IRO4s on Thursdays, and of course the PRL NASCAR Cup Series on Sundays. We hope you will join us then. Until we see you next time, from me, from Justin Prince, from Hugo Luis, and from everybody at the PRL, we thank you for watching. Till next time, so long.